Welcome. Monday, January 13th, 2020, Shaw Select Board meeting, 5:37 p.m. Call this meeting to order. There was a 4:30 site visit. We'll take up at 6:01. First item is the FY21 budget. This is largely a working session. By the end of the next regularly scheduled meeting, January 27th, we want to have a finalized budget so that it can make it in time for the printing in the town report. Kind of the goal at this one traditionally has been to bring our sharpest pencils and see how fiscally responsible we can be this year. We had a lot of budget requests compared to years past that exceeded the average request. This is, I'm working off of the most recent one I had as a hard copy that was in our meeting packet. And I marked it up. There is a more recent one that is on our table today, which includes a 1.4% COLA when it comes to employee wages. But that should be the only thing different with that one. One thing I've done every year is I go through every subsection and I look at the total, or the subtotal of that section, and I make it a percentage increase over the previous year's approved budget to kind of look at where the low-hanging fruit are and where the areas of most rapid inflation are, and then ask myself why and think about if that's necessary. The three that came up for me, the biggest one I think is a 15% increase in the town clerk's total over last year. And I remember, Mary, during the original budget request, you talked about the majority of that increase is going to be due to your desire to hire an extra employee.
There's two things that are in play, and one is the service contract with NEMRIC that was increased because of the cybersecurity measures that they had to take, so the expenses were more. So the under service contracts, the $7,600 is a $3,500 increase from this current budget right here. And then the other is the an assistant for
Just
somewhere between 10 and 15 hours a week, which would be mainly when we are really busy, like presidential election time, or someone is on vacation, or someone is sick for a certain period of time. It's just difficult to have a two-person office. And with having a two-person office and you just have one assistant, if something happens to that assistant, you're left in a very unfavorable position.
I thought you were trained Sally.
She doesn't answer the phone.
Oh, okay.
See, in this case, I can really appreciate what she's saying because I no longer can really run the store with just one person, except for maybe if it's a Saturday, Sunday. But even a Saturday, there are a few hours out of each day now during the week that we need to be two people. one person cannot take up, which I think is fabulous, because I would much rather have that problem than not enough work for one person. So, and it's something that I've seen increase, and I'd be in the same position if I only had one other person, which Emily and I did it for a long time together, several years. And now with there being a few of us, if somebody's sick or on vacation, or if somebody's on vacation gets sick, so I can definitely relate to a two-person office.
So by that logic, we should hire an assistant for all the other single-town positions.
This will be a second assistant.
Although some of them are single people offices. If Dean's sick, Dean's sick. If Lister's sick, she's sick. There's no other person to fill in when things happen.
I mean, it sounds like this isn't because of a 15% increase in workload that needs more labor. It's really looking for a more insured office environment. Would it be possible to have two part-time assistant clerk treasurers cover the same amount of workload?
Not really.
No. So as we're looking at the budget and looking at necessities versus wish lists, to me, this falls more into the category of it would be nice to have a third employee there, but it doesn't sound like it's a necessity. Is that accurate?
You look at it any way you want. I don't really care.
You let the people decide. Right?
Well, I think the first bar is we bring the most responsible budget we can to the people, and at town meeting, the value of town meeting is anyone can stand up and ask to have any line item increased by any amount. As long as you live in town, that's what town meeting's for, is to adjust the select board's budget. So for me, this is really a reflection not of the people's will, but what the five of us think is a responsible presentation of levying taxes. And in any other year where the budget looks like it's going to go up 1 or 2%, which we've done 1 to 3, 1 to 4% the last 5 years, this really would be a drop in the bucket. This year we're facing upwards of a 12%, 8% increase, and that's with taking out the appropriation request from the trails and taking out the appropriation request from the nonprofits, which have traditionally been in the select board's budget. So we're really looking at apples to apples, a 8 to 9% increase in the budget.
Which is way too much.
Which is way too much. So I spent hours and hours going over every number and asking myself, what's a necessity? What is a wish list or would be nice? And reserve the time in town meeting to have people add in things. We can even bring things up voluntarily at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
This is the $60,000 that we took out to present a budget that's only a 5% increase over last year's. Do people want to add these line items in? We don't have to leave it up to individuals. We can put the whole discussion out there for the town to vote on.
Is part of this a result of Christina's plans?
Yes.
So is this maybe a one-year thing or a permanent thing? You know, Christina's told me she's planning on moving eventually.
Moving?
So this might be to have two people training. So,
Well, that's news.
Christina said, go ahead and mention it. So I did. I don't know if that's, would this be a permanent thing, do you think? Or after something's trained, it might disappear again? Hard to tell.
I have no idea. When I started in 1994, I had 2 assistants.
That were
I
full-time?
had 2 full-time assistants. And then one left, and we hired another one. And then actually the third one was probably not quite full-time, more like 30 hours or whatever. I mean,
It's
that's
full-time.
considered full-time now,
Yeah.
but. And then when that second one left, Marlene and I made the apparently very bad decision to say, you know what, let's just save the town some money and we'll just try and do this, just the 2 of us. Oh, okay. That was probably a bad decision on my part. Because you need that third person, however many part-time hours they are, that can vary. When you need somebody in the office. I mean, today, I'm in the office. I was the only one here until whatever, 9:30, whatever, just me. Nobody in planning and zoning. The listers don't have hours on Monday, so nobody's expected to be in there. If somebody is out in planning and zoning, they have 3 people. It doesn't mean that somebody has an assistant, but they have 3 people, so, you know, it's a little bit less hardship for them because they have 3 people sitting behind that counter. So, but you can do what you want. Just doesn't matter.
Mary, what is the biggest demand on the time of you and your assistant, Christina? Where does the bulk of your time end up going? Answering the phone, I mean, deeds and stuff, or,
It depends on the season.
okay. Dog licenses right now are pretty,
Yeah, that's not too busy. I mean, elections are busy, and elections are busy before the election, leading up to the election,
okay.
at the election, and after the election,
Okay.
because there's a lot involved in it.
Yeah,
Town meeting is busy. Taxes are busy. Collecting taxes, sending them out. And, you know, those are like our busiest things that we do, but at the same time, we're doing what we do every day. We are answering the phone. We are waiting on people at the counter. We are doing dog licenses. We are serving whatever anybody needs when they come to the counter.
No, I've seen that for sure.
So,
Do you think, if that full-time position is leaving at some point and this is a training position, that the third replacement could be part-time? So that the total hours doesn't increase much, but the coverage increases a lot?
what do you mean like a third?
You know, if Christina ends up leaving, it sounds like it wouldn't be feasible to have this fiscal cycle a cut in hours. But if we lose that employee and bring on another third, if those are both part-time, I guess I'm getting to the temporary nature of what Fritz is talking about. Or if you see this as a long-term increase in the budget.
I see a request for a part-time person, period.
How many hours does that work out to?
I think I estimated like 10 to 15 hours at the most a week.
And so that's not with
So-
any benefits?
Are you saying maybe you get into 230 since you're going to perhaps replace a 40-hour person, replace it with a 30 and have 230s instead of 40 and a 10 kind of thing, or a combination thereof?
That's what I'm wondering.
It's always going to be two full-time positions. It can't be less than 2 full-time positions. Always. 2 part-time positions and a full-time is not going to, it's not going to work.
Oh, it'd be a scheduling pain.
What's the viability of finding somebody that will only work 10 to 15 hours a week as a part-time
Well,
position in the clerk's office too?
On demand,
Yeah,
when it's busy, someone will be here for a week when we're busy, and the week we're not busy, they don't work? Or is this, were you thinking 10 to 15 hours every week? Or more one week
No,
when things
I
are...
just use that as be able to come up with a dollar amount.
Okay.
Because clearly, if somebody's on vacation and leaves one behind, that person, that temporary person or part-time person would most likely be working more than 10, 15 hours on the vacation week.
So it's kind of an on-call person.
Flex.
And it's, it's out there
I'm retired.
where maybe somebody would start out as part-time and maybe they would want to start out as part-time, but maybe they would have in their future, maybe they'd like to be full-time.
That would be ideal. And this position would be the same. Palmer, it's the same position, same pay rate depending on where they land in the years
It's a
experience.
whole nother discussion.
Well, is that how you base the 14,000?
I picked a pay rate that's out there in the assistance world.
In the market, nothing to do
Yes.
with Palmer.
No,
Is it higher or lower than the Palmer
let's stay
assessment?
clear of Palmer.
I know, but we can't.
It's 18, I think I used 18.
18?
And I went to surrounding towns that were presently hiring, and they were hiring not assistant clerks, treasurers, but for the most part, well, no, Heinsberg is hiring assistant clerk treasurer, but the other ones were hiring or have hired assistant clerks.
Okay. Well, it's a lot more information. I appreciate it. The other big one I saw was planning and zoning legal went up significantly. Do you remember why it went up from 10,000 to 11,000? Big.
I think it's based on actual. Last year ended June 30th, 2019. Actual was 11,000.
This year to date is 2. We're
The
halfway
billing
through.
cycle is, that probably is up through November, I think. Bills come in.
As of January 9th.
Right, but they're billing,
Oh, well, 30 days out.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to bring that back down to 10. If they go over on legal, that happens too.
Okay.
But I don't see this year's actuals warranting that. And 18, 19 could have been the anomaly at 11. Is everyone okay with that? The other big,
Legal is kind of a crapshoot.
it is.
Right.
Take
I
like
mean,
a
I know
10-year
there's- I know
average
there-
kind of
There
thing.
were some questions from planning and zoning to the lawyer for decisions in December, so there are some legal fees that were incurred in December that aren't on here.
Right. And yeah, we're at the halfway mark and they're far from it.
Most of the permits are being applied for now, so
For
your
spring
legal fees,
construction.
your legal fees will hit right near the end of the fiscal year.
Our legal expense for the select board was budgeted same year at 45,000. We came in at 27. Last year approved at 55 and we're only at 12. So this year we knocked it down to 45. So it's just doing the same trend. Was my thought.
And we have some of those that are that occurred in December too, that aren't on here.
Conservation. Oh,
Can we stay on this page for a minute?
yeah.
What page?
Page, the first page of expenses.
But select board advertising, $1,500. Why is that?
The actuals, 18-19, were 3,600. And year to date, we're a dollar less than the budgeted amount for the whole year.
And but my question is, why is that? How come we're budgeting then too low? We had been,
There's been a lot of things to advertise,
okay.
staff positions, ordinances. Every time we approve an ordinance, the notice has to be published. Request for proposals.
So a more accurate really is the 3,000 that's
Yeah.
on there. There's your 10-year average. I guess I had the same thing in planning and zoning, so same answer.
With the advertising.
Yeah.
Right, but everything needs to be advertised, all the warnings for all the planning and zoning meetings.
But, I noticed select board budget went down 5%, the treasurer budget went down 2%. The other, Dean, under town lands, page 3 of expenses, you know why village mowing went up 50%?
I think that partly includes mulching of trees and,
Air spading,
sorry,
air spading.
That's right.
air spading of trees.
Cheers. Which actually was kind of cheap. I think it was like $900, but it's half of that.
That's too much.
But the village mowing in the past, the 4850, 4400, those bids always included tree mulching, I thought. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not
It
sure.
only became an issue when you decided to take tree mulching and make it a separate bid. Yes?
That whole town lands thing, all the mowing and mulching needs to be
So you could probably lower that if
revisited before
you-
the spring.
If
There's
you-
better ways
the
of
mowing
doing it than
contract
we're doing it.
was including mulching.
Well, there's a question is if you mulch every year, you're starting to screw up the trees. It really can't take
Can't take it.
15 years of stuff being piled around the
No,
ground.
no.
Without
That's
taking
how you
it
kill-
out.
That's how you kill the trees.
And I don't want to necessarily mulch roadside trees that are
Well, it's
just
not-
gonna grow
Chris
up.
said It's,
Yeah.
Right.
it's
Like
not
mul-
good for the trees, because
mulching.
what it does is it compacts and it kills the roots.
Yeah, you want to leave the crown or the little flared part needs to be right where the dirt is indefinitely, not get buried because then it's what kills it.
I do have a question. If you look at schools under town lands, school fields and gym, down, okay. But then we go over to. no, I'm gonna-
Recreation.
Yeah, recreation, CCS,
Middle of the next page,
thank you.
and at the bottom of recreation.
CCS facilities usage, do they cancel each other out at all?
One's 5,050, the other's 7,425.
Right, so, but what I'm trying to understand is that's a,
But that is,
yeah.
I did have a question for Nicole, if that's one-to-one.
Yeah, but doesn't this have to do with us using it for town meeting and stuff?
Is that
So
the,
the school fields and gym, back in the day when the town of Charlotte took over intramurals from the school because they wanted us to, we had an agreement that we would pay a certain percentage of field maintenance and a certain percentage for gym floor refinishing because we were running the programs and they were at the school. So that school fields and gym, up until this past year, or whenever, that's what it was for. And we were not charged by the school to run our programs at the school. We just did that maintenance thing. Now that we're a district, the rules have changed, and the way they do it is, Nicole sat down with Jean Jensen at the district, and they went through what our programs are, the, you know, whatever, I don't even know.
Well, they have a district-wide formula that she negotiated.
Right, and Nicole told her, you know, came up with the spreadsheet with, these are my programs, this is the days, whatever.
We want to stay
And-
level funded was the goal.
Well, Jean Jensen had us at, she said it was gonna, our programs were gonna cost us 11,000.
Originally.
And Nicole got it down to the real number, which is the 70, whatever that is. So that is how they are, we're no longer getting billed for the gym floor being redone or irrigating the fields or any of that. We're being charged for our programs and our usage of the school.
Well, that's what I was trying to understand, because whether,
And that's why it got moved over
Okay.
to recreation.
so the net is not really 74.25, it's,
We're paying a couple thousand more.
okay.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to figure out.
2375. Do you know, Mary, though, if that includes the security caveat for?
Oh, no.
No, that'll be,
That's
Select
still
Board's
a
budget.
discussion because they haven't really been very clear on that. So I'm just going to use Josh.
yeah,
We need more security.
find out.
Until they say I'm naughty. I'm just going to use Josh.
And the door,
Whatever say that about.
and the
I
locks.
know.
The doors are locked from the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also I saw in the library, custodial services went up. It's bigger library, yeah?
So there's, just on the agenda, there's a public access or highway access permit that's in the,
6 o'clock.
yep.
Let's press pause. We'll come back to the budget. Adjustments to the agenda. I have one adjustment. Maybe 6:03 PM after the highway access.
The highway access is just a renewal of what was done.
Of already approved.
I think the adjustment to the agenda is potential offer of Charlotte ambulance services to Heinsberg, so just kind of an update kind of thing, so sure, we can get the access permit out of the way.
And then fire and rescue are here to discuss that. Any other adjustments to the
I
agenda?
just want to check, did you get the adjustment? No. Louder.
What? Oh,
Yes, sir.
a 6:03 adjustment to the agenda, a presentation about providing services to town of Heinsberg for fire and rescue. Does that sum it up?
Yeah, good enough.
Okay. Any other adjustments? George, welcome. Hi. So you have a request for a highway access permit, 20-1 on Dorset Street for a driveway to propose single-family dwelling on an existing building lot.
You know, in the 45 years that I've lived in Charlotte, I had never been on that windy road with that little tiny, you know, bridge.
The Carpenters or
No, I
Dorset
had
Street
never-
Extension?
So I went over to, Fritz and I went over there to look at things.
That's a nice ride.
I stop there every day.
Do you drive a school bus on that road?
I stop just about on the bridge every day. Yeah, come right up.
So there's, other than, there was originally some site issues the first time this was out with the trees, they're gonna be removed this time, so I'll just make the motion to approve the highway access permit, HAP 20-01,
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? Junior, you had a chance to look at it? Nice. Sorry, I couldn't make it.
I did a drive-by.
We were,
Kind of slow, actually, just making sure. I saw a dead tree laying out.
I'm driving the bus, I'm going up a hill, I'm going slow.
And I thought, well, if Junior agrees, so do I.
Mark Dillon did review the trees that need to be removed, and he's okay with that, just tree warden. We discussed the slope coming away from Dorset Street at about 3% for the first 30 feet, and then you can do whatever. I guess you discussed a little bit on site as far as the removal of the trees and how that's going to happen, and probably just want to be in touch with Junior as far as if any kind of traffic control is needed.
So is that 3%, 30 feet, is that on the application?
I don't think it's specifically on the application. It's just a standard, it's one of the standards for driveways and roads that are coming off a town road.
I'm just wondering where somebody would find it if they were looking to see whether this was done properly, where they would find that number, and how it's referenced in the permit.
It could be a condition of the permit.
it should, yeah, we should reference the, if it's one of our standards, is it a page, a number?
I believe it's the state, one of the state standards,
V71.
yeah, right, yeah.
We should just,
Culvert requirements, site distance, B71 slope standard.
yeah.
I guess authorize the chair to sign, or someone?
Sure, I said.
You did? Second?
Louis seconded it.
I did.
No more discussion?
I was worried about the trees dying back.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks. Yep.
Thank you.
Tom, Patrice, welcome. Yeah. Thanks for coming on short notice.
Thanks for having us on short
Thanks for
notice.
making the adjustment.
Importantly. Here's a handout for everybody. Take one and pass it. So I got an email Friday night, basically, or Friday evening, from Heinsberg's town administrator, town manager, that there was to be a meeting this coming day after tomorrow with the select board regarding their ambulance service, and that potential providers of that service were asked to attend. So unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town starting tomorrow, but 2 or 3 of us will be at that meeting, to give input. But I
Is
thought
everyone aware of how this conversation started?
At the last
Yeah.
budget meeting, you,
Okay,
we
so
haven't talked about it.
St. Mike's Rescue has been providing primary EMS service to the town of Heinsberg for forever. Okay? They, back in May or June, they notified the town of Heinsberg that they would be stepping back from that responsibility effective June of 2020. So the town of Heinsberg went through a couple different scenarios. One was that they were going to have their own ambulance service. They had a subcommittee of the select board, then they hired an outside consultant, then they asked for proposals, and then they're back to maybe doing their own ambulance. And so the whole thing is in flux, but that brings us to present day.
So that being said, I tried to put together a bit of a document yesterday that summarizes what we've been contemplating in terms of an offer to them. And it consists of what would be the scope of service, what's the anticipated call volume, what's the area that we would cover. We went through a back testing process to kind of figure out if we were out making calls to Heinsberg, would it conflict with calls that we had to make in Charlotte? So we wanted to base that on actual experience for the last year.
12 of them, is that right, where I'm reading?
For the fiscal year ended June 30th,
Right.
2019.
And that means that you wouldn't have been able to service Charlotte because you would have been in Heinsberg.
Technically, we would have.
12 seems like quite a bit, to be really honest.
Well,
I mean, I have some insight
consider that
planning.
Shelburne gives up about 100 a year.
How
100.
many times has Shelburne covered for us?
How many exactly, I don't have
Well,
the
that
number.
wasn't, that's not.
But they do cover for us, we cover for them.
Yeah.
Virgins comes in and covers for
Yeah,
us.
okay.
And that's part of that whole mutual aid agreement.
Of course, yeah.
You know, what is different about the scenario that we're facing with the town of Heinsberg is they don't currently have an ambulance to
would
provide
be
that
their
reciprocity back to us. So we would be the primary for a portion of town, and there are multiple surrounding communities that are also putting in proposals to basically take their town and divide it and cover what is closest to help, and it's more or less a bridge until they can get their own ambulance service up.
That's
and
right.
going. So this isn't a long-term, it's a short-term solution for them.
Right. So just to kind of continue to give you the rest of the information, so duration of how long would be involved, Patrice just touched on that. We really don't know. It's kind of to be determined. I mean, we think that it's probably more of a short-term engagement, but it's possible that the town of Heinsberg would decide that, you know, this is a pretty economical way to provide it, and maybe it could potentially extend beyond. And then obviously, what are the financial considerations? How do we expect to be paid, and how do we expect to make it fair to Charlotte taxpayers? So that's the essence of what this is. So the scope of service, you know, when you put in an update to the agenda, you mentioned fire and rescue. It's really just ambulance service that we're referring to here. We expect, based on the information that we have, there would probably be about right around 130 calls, you know, in the course of a year. As you can see, what we would propose to them on Wednesday is that we would cover west of 116. You know, it's our town. You know, our families have students at CVUs, so we would want that Mechanicsville loop, including CVU. And the way we look at the math, we can, I think it's depending exactly where you are in the village, we can be to the village about 6 or 7 minutes faster. In some cases, even a little bit more than that, than Richmond would be. So from our perspective, from a patient care standpoint, it seems to make sense that we would cover the village. I'm not sure Richmond sees it that way, but that's what the math is, the way we see it. Back tested, as we said, there would be 12, you know, if we went back that last fiscal year, it's about 12 different times that we would be conflicted, if you will. And so somebody else, one of the other neighboring towns would cover us on those 12 occasions. And again, we don't know how long this is going to last. Financial, which brings us to the last point, which is the financial considerations. The way we think we will probably propose is that if the town of Heinsberg is 4,200 residents, we would split it in half, and we would bill at probably a $25 a head rate for those 2,100. So that's about 52,000 of revenue coming in. In addition to that, based on experience and the information that was given to us from St. Mike's as to what in their prior calls were billable, we would expect to see somewhere, you know, a range of like 40, it's a pretty wide range, but 40 to 75,000 of billable revenue.
The high side of that includes the 52.5.
Okay, all right. Okay, I didn't realize that. So any of that actual billable revenue is subject to Montpelier's ambulance tax of 3.3%. So one of the things that we were thinking was that if this is something that everybody, obviously yourselves included, is comfortable with, it obviously involves a change in our MOA. But if everyone is comfortable with it and it goes forward, that the, that $25 a head would be something that could be collected by the town directly. And as the money comes in, there could be an adjustment to our appropriation based on the flow from Heinsberg. So those are our thoughts. We've attached the District 3, which I haven't studied tonight. Patrice, maybe you could speak to this, but basically what it shows is the formalized mutual aid, how mutual aid is organized from town to town. And you can see that we do have, a significant responsibility to Heinsberg.
That is presently. So first in, so if you're reading left to right, scroll down and find Heinsberg on your left-hand column. It breaks it into 4 different zones. St. Mike's is primary into the entire town, and then if St. Mike's were either unavailable because they're out on another call, or if they don't have a crew available to respond.
Or they're no longer providing service.
Right, it says, okay, next in would be Williston, Richmond, Charlotte. So that, using this grid is partly how we came about deciding or determining what areas of town we would cover. So right now, we're second in to 2 of the 3 zones. Shelburne, to our knowledge, is not participating in the proposal process.
So assume St. Mike's is not there and we're now primary into zones 3 and zones 4 as a mutual aid partner. We would get billables, and that's it. There'd be no $25 a head. So flash forward, it's June of 2020, June of this year, and St. Mike's is no longer covering Heinsberg, and now we're covering them on a mutual aid basis. It's a lot different than what we're proposing tonight.
Where did you come up with the $25?
It's a number that, is used in other towns. For example, I think Middlebury uses that number. It's a fairly common number around the country.
Now, if you took a different approach, Carrie, and you said, okay, if you peel back and look at the budget that we presented to you for FY21, and just looked at the rescue component of that, and said, okay, this is how much the rescue budget is. We know what is budgeted for patient billing revenue and intercepts, and reduced that and came up with the net that the town of Charlotte is subsidizing through the appropriation for Charlotte Rescue. Then you'd sit there and say, well, is 25 really a valid number, or would the select board like to propose something else? But, we're actually looking for some guidance from you folks too, as far as what do you think would be tolerable, or,
Well, I have a thought on structure, seeing as there are 2 revenue streams, and there are really 2 major budgetary pressures. I was thinking the fixed fee that Charlotte is asking Heinsberg to pay per resident could go directly into the capital reserve budget.
That's an interesting idea.
Because it's a fixed fee, we have fixed costs, it's increasing our equipment use fairly statically, or, linear increase. And then the billing could be reflected, to help with operating expenses.
Right.
And that could be something we could structure into the MOA, and it would alleviate some of the pressure on the taxpayers to fund that fund, but it would also help alleviate, the operating expenses.
So how do you feel about the proposed per head that Tom proposed? Do you think that's reasonable? Do you think it's not low enough? Do you think it should be higher?
It seems like,
I think you could do 30.
Understand that there's been some
Why not?
We've had, what I was gonna say is understand that we've had at least some feedback, not necessarily formal, that Richmond is a lower number than that.
From my perspective, I think this is a pretty great idea because I think we have a huge amount of fixed costs.
That's right.
And the more that we can incrementally use those fixed costs, I think the better off we are. I mean, that's just kind of my big picture observation. And also, you want to help out another town.
That's right.
Right, we want to be good neighbors.
The other question I guess I had is it apples to apples for service? Does Richmond have paramedic level service also?
They do, but they also have a much wider and deeper number of volunteers in their organization. It's just a different community
Yeah.
in that respect. So,
I think this is, at this point, just what, keeping us in the loop. Go to Heinsberg on Wednesday and see what happens. You know, this is both sides have to agree to it, and I'm gonna go Wednesday just to weigh in that, you know, this is actually part of the town's deal, not just the fire department, because we pay the bills.
Yeah, well, it affects the level of service.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And the MOA and all the other
The other thing to keep in mind too,
things.
Matt, is that even after Wednesday's meeting, this isn't a done deal because it's on their town meeting agenda for their voters to vote on whether or not they're going to still go down the path of having their own ambulance
Yeah.
or have it provided by surrounding communities.
For an interim period. I mean, it sounds like no matter what, at some point, they'll get there.
Well, the other thing that may be an unknown right now too is whether or not, even though St. Mike's had proposed to them that effective June 30th, 2020, they would no longer be providing services, if the town of Heinsberg decided that they wanted to do their own ambulance service, St. Mike's may extend that by 3 to 6, 9 months until Heinsberg got up and running. So there's a number of variables that are in play at the same time, so.
Is St. Mike's going out of service, or they're just not
No,
serving
I think they've
Heinsberg?
probably found that, you know, that it's, with the addition of one full-time employee, it's a student-based organization. So those kids are getting pulled out of classes to run calls, and at one point, the volume in Heinsberg probably was much lower. And now they're probably feeling that it's a college, they're there for their academics. And this is, you know, an additional responsibility. Yeah, imagine that.
Do we know how far along Heinsberg is at doing ambulance service on their own?
From, if you read anything that's in any of the papers, there is a community member that has said that they will pay for the ambulance, to purchase an ambulance, so the piece of apparatus.
It's a head
Right now,
start.
their firefighters are all EMTs or AEMTs, but again, right now, they're acting as a first response. So, to answer your question, no, we really don't know how far along they are, but we do know that they have components in place that if they hired 2 full-time people, then they'd probably be like Richmond, that they're relying on their volunteer base to fill in the, after the normal workday and weekends.
Sorry, I didn't get the handout, so I'm not sure how, you mentioned receiving their fixed fee or their per patient fee. How would that be billed? I don't think.
The patient billing revenue would flow, we'd have our.
I'm sorry, I just meant who would bill?
We would.
Okay, and the fixed fee?
What I'm hearing is that would be better done from town to town. That would be town of Charlotte to town of Heinsberg.
Town of Heinsberg, okay, great.
Yep.
custodian to custodian.
Well, it'd be nice to make sure that
Yeah.
it stays into, doesn't just go into the general fund.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Any other
Questions?
questions,
Guidance? No, thank you
comments,
for pursuing
guidance?
this. Yeah.
So, be
proposed Wednesday, and we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, got an open-minded board, I guess. Sounds
Okay,
like.
Thanks for working us in.
thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry for the short notice.
Okay, let's see if we can catch up a little. Village wastewater?
So this is actually Thompson's Point wastewater.
Yep, thank you.
The Thompson's Point Wastewater Advisory Committee approved as a recommendation of the Select Board the budget that is included in the packet. It's based on two revenue sources. One is a fixed fee of $750 per connection.
Is that per connection per year?
It is.
Okay.
And a per gallon fee of 0.061, 6.1 cents per gallon. So that's in the lower right-hand corner of the budget. The main upgrade this year is the PLC, or Programmable Logic Control, which is the computer that runs the system. And the cost of that is approximately $30,000. That's being paid for out of the sinking fund, and then the budget includes putting $30,000 into the sinking fund, so it's a net wash. The sinking fund has about $129,000 in it right now. The goal over the long term is to build it up to about $150,000, so that if the mound fails or the sand filter fails, those can be replaced. So the main items to address in any motion to approve would be the two fees, $750 and 6.1 cents.
Make a motion to approve the Thompson's Point wastewater system budget for fiscal year 2021.
I'll second that.
To include the per gallon fee of 0.061 and a annual fee per hookup of $750.
And all of the other appropriate numbers.
Provided on the revenue and expense report.
I mean, this is a net zero effect to the town in terms of taxes anyway, so.
Yes, all borne by the
Yeah.
leaseholders.
Right.
Yep.
Any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Contract with Civil Engineering Associates as the system engineer of the Thompson's Point wastewater system.
So Civil Engineering Associates has been the engineer for the system for several years. They have estimated an expense of $7,000. They normally are a bit less than that. Their fee is on an as-needed basis, so it's not a lump sum fee. So they bill it out, and I think they're very good at working with the operator.
They are preferred vendor.
Yes.
Numbers in the budget, so I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Civil Engineering Associates as system engineer for the Thompson's Point wastewater system.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
SJW Docks is owned by Steve Williams, and his son Jake Williams is also helping out. The contract a couple of years ago changed to kind of mirror the salary policy that the town has as far as reflecting the CPI change annually. So this year, well, the CPI, it won't be known until January 15th as far as the most recent figure. It looks like it might be 1.4% or so. So far, I calculated it when I did the contract at 1.3% increase. So it may change by January 15th. So you could potentially approve the contract with a contingent that if the CPI changes, that
It would float.
yes.
Is there such a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the contract with SJW Docks as system operator of the Thompson's Point wastewater system. And that also was in the budget. So you're saying the number of 51,399 is to be adjusted for,
Yeah. That's 1.3%, I believe. So if it changes, then that would change. And that doesn't affect the budget. It's still, those fees would still work.
okay?
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? The installation of electric vehicle charging station at the town hall parking lot.
So when the library was looking at doing some energy efficiency, energy upgrades to the library, they applied for a grant for an electric vehicle charging station, and the grant was approved. I think initially it was proposed to be closer to the library because the distance to the panels, and Fritz can probably explain this better than I can.
The additional load is, the addition to the library has maxed out the capacity of the
Panel?
service to the library.
Wow.
So this is a significant, especially the high-speed chargers are a significant amp load, which would have required like a $5,000 upgrade to that panel. But the one at the corner of the town hall has more than enough. So, and it's also a very short distance from the building to the panel, or to the charger, so,
Lowers the resistance.
yeah, and it's cheaper.
And this was a significant grant?
It was, so $16,934, thank you to the library. The difference would be $2,029.
And how do we recover those costs? Do we charge, excuse the pun, charge people for charging?
The company that puts in the charger sets up an account, and it's done through their accounting. It comes through our system, but the charge and the reimbursement is all done through,
It's a pass-through, so
Okay.
we
Yeah.
don't see any revenue, nor are we charged theoretically for the electricity used. The person charging their vehicle pays the company providing the service.
there's 2 or 3 different kinds. You set up an account on your phone and you do the phone thing, or,
Okay, so the cost to the library is $2,500. Did I get that right?
$2,029.
$2,029
Oh,
for a almost $20,000
no,
system. Yeah.
okay. And so that's coming out of the library's budget?
Question?
Sorry, Margaret.
When we did this grant, and I should also, give a tip of the hat to the Energy Committee, because they're the ones who initially brought the grant to our attention. And since we were looking, as Dean said, for energy efficiencies and upgrades, until we encountered the distance and panel problems, it seemed like a natural fit. So I'm grateful that it will work at Town Hall instead. My understanding, and I have notes somewhere, which I have a whole folder, but don't have those notes, is that the cost was going to be split, and at the library, we certainly would be prepared. I presented this to the library board, and they were prepared to share half of the cost, and with someone else in town.
With the town?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm dazed and confused, which I know is gonna shock everybody. Okay, so this charging station won't be in the library, it'll be here.
Yes.
All right, and so the town is gonna pay the net amount.
Half, it sounds like, of the $2,000. And the library would pay the other half, which.
Okay, and so the question,
Budget.
okay, so like, but then why are we doing it?
The service, to provide electric charging.
Okay.
Our town plan goals to be more energy friendly and energy efficient and to provide charging for,
Okay.
there aren't any of those around here.
And capturing, as a public service, like public restrooms, but it also is, an opportunity of getting $17,000 in infrastructure we wouldn't otherwise invest in through this grant.
Okay, so it's gonna be here, and the electricity for it is coming from, just help me understand this, it's coming,
The grid.
It comes from the grid.
It passes through
The
our.
town doesn't pay for
Passes
it.
through our wires, but we won't see it on our bill.
okay,
And
so we're spending whatever this amount is, our share of
It's
it.
2,029.
Okay.
Which is left after the grant.
All right,
To have this for everyone in town
In town,
to use
okay.
as a charging station.
And it goes through our panel
Oh,
and
that's-
it
yeah.
gets charged directly from the,
It'd be interesting if gas stations in town had these.
I was gonna
But so
say,
far, there
was
isn't
our next
one.
thing we're gonna buy a gas station?
I've got one for sale.
Those come with some environmental issues in the ground. So that's the idea. Is it's
This is a
public
one-time
service.
payment, so all the maintenance, all the ongoing, right, is taken care
yeah,
of?
I don't
by the
know off
owner.
the top of my head which company is providing this, but there are 2 or 3 companies nationally that
so the dual output.
you have
Plugs 2 in.
that run these things.
Oh, so it's a twofer. Mary?
So, we're going to pay the $18,963 that's proposed, and then we're going to, after we've done that, then the grant is awarded for the $16,934, is that correct?
That's how I read it.
So is the grant coming in FY 2021?
Probably I think this year.
It says award start date July 1, 2019, award end date July 1, 2021. So yes, it could be in either year. Is there a preference from an
Well, I'm
accounting?
just saying that you would want to put that into your budget for 2021 if that's when the grant's coming in as grant revenue.
I would think it would be, well, we could check that out, but I would think it would be the current fiscal year. Before June 30th.
You see that?
Scheduled to have it installed.
You see that line?
Award end date,
Yeah.
so that's, the very latest, but the earliest,
It's already.
what's that?
It could have been installed 5 months ago.
Right. So we could find out,
Check
but I
on it.
wouldn't think it would be, well, yeah, we could find out.
Find out what the time frame is on completion and grant award.
Right.
And when is the time of year that would be optimum for doing the work? Is there a time?
Anytime
Well-
the ground is soft enough to dig through.
Yeah. The electrician would
So
tell
who
you
knows?
that July. June,
So-
it's not too hot.
So far this year, it's been okay.
If they do it right off, it'd probably be fine. It's not really that frozen at all right now.
No.
Subject to change quickly.
This is true.
So, I guess we can find out before the next meeting, Dean?
Sure.
It's something I think we could still approve if there's the desire to approve it.
if it's this fiscal year, we take it out of our
Improvement and repair fund?
improvement repair fund. If it's next year, we can put it in the budget.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question, since originally when we talked about the half coming from the library and half coming from the town, we were looking at that 18, I realize it's not a huge amount of difference, but it's now gone up to 2,000 and something. And is that just because because of the change in the site, or?
Probably. Originally, there was some thoughts that part of it was going to be in the scope of work of the electrician doing the library.
Right, but it says it's a 10% project,
So
that
what-
we have to pay 10%. So I guess I'm just wondering if they're saying that the cost of the project is $18,800 and something dollars, then 10% would be $1,800. So why did it go up to $2,000? I guess it's just,
I'd have to look at
someone might
Cummins'
ask me that
price there.
question.
I gotta add a pole. Does that make a difference? Cummings?
There's a difference
A new
between their
pole
original
needs-
estimate, which was, see, they provided an estimate of the cost. Anyways, the difference between the original estimate and the final quote resulted in the difference between the 2029 versus the 1882.
Well, Cummings they have to install a new pole out there, and that's for $2,800. Is that the difference?
That's installing
That's,
the unit. I suspect the difference in price came from when, if the contractor over there was taking care of all of the stuff inside the building, they would have quick path to the panel. Here, they have to come in the building and fish through the ceiling to get to the panel in the computer room. So that's probably the additional expense, is they have, in an existing building, they have work to get to the panel. In a new building, that would be there for them and ready. It's easier to put a pipe through a wall empty than it is to try to put a pipe through a wall that's already built. So,
It's, 2 hours labor. And this is a grant from the state of Vermont. Getting them back.
You said it, I was, thank you.
Do you want to wait till the next meeting, or are you done with it, or are you see how the time frame of the payments and the work?
I was gonna make a motion to approve the grant. But what do people feel?
I mean, it all depends on whether you want the grant to actually be the 90%. To make it 10%, the 10% that we're supposed to put in.
I don't think we can go.
That would be adjusting,
The award.
The award.
Yeah, I don't
I
think we
think
can do
that $200 or $300. 300? No. 18.
no, it's 1,000 something. Or was it in that, it was 100.
Yeah, 2029 minus 1882, $147 difference would probably eat.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Okay. So make a motion to approve the grant from the state of Vermont grant agreement.
reminds me, I need to advise people that I have on occasion hired Cummins Electric, and probably will be hiring them next month to do some more. So if anybody's concerned, I can just abstain. Make it easy.
I think the motion would also be to approve the installation.
And to approve the installation for $18,963 from Cummins Electric. Is there a second? And then we can,
Yeah, I'll second that.
people's thoughts about Fritz's,
Oh, I'm not worried about that. He would deal with it, no problem.
okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion, grant installation, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Opposed. The installation of electric, nope, we got that. Replacing the lighting in town hall and in parking lot with LED.
So while Cummings was here, I dragged him around the town hall because there's been talk for quite a while about changing the fixtures from fluorescent to LED. And it's been virtually impossible to get quotes or consistent spec for what to do as far as changing some of the fixtures or the lamps or the ballasts. We did receive a quote last year from JFS Electric for just the inside, not the outside, and that was over $9,000. So Cummings provided a quote that includes both the inside and the outside. The inside work is $7,400. And the outside work includes replacing the bollards, which are along the parking lot on this side of the parking lot, and the poles, the 4 poles on the other side of the parking lot. So the 4 poles are $23.92, the bollards are $37.50 total.
Dean, this is because the current, this is to be for energy efficiency, and I understand the external lights in the parking lot are because
Yeah.
they need to be replaced.
So the outside ones have definitely failed over time at various times.
Okay.
Some of them work, some of them don't work. On the inside, sometimes we have had issues with the inside fixtures working. Sometimes these have gone out. And then it is the energy efficiency aspect of it, so it's a combination of the two.
So on the energy efficiency side, do we know what kind of savings we expect from this?
Doug, are you able to?
One of the advantages of LED lights is how long they last. So
Right.
to forecast how fast regular bulbs are going to burn out and be replaced by whoever, whenever, as opposed to forgetting about them for a lot longer period, is probably, there's somebody out there probably that has estimated a tangible cost, but that's just kind of.
No, that's, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
Is this, I mean, I understand the parking lot we need to replace because they're not working. But internally, so it's for energy efficiency?
And more consistency in terms of sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work, sometimes the bulbs need to be replaced, getting people to replace them costs money.
Well, the other piece is when the ballasts go, that's
Yeah.
the decision point on, do you spend money on installing another ballast or retrofitting to LED? Because that's really the expensive, the bulbs are
Sounds like-
relatively cheap.
Sounds like my house.
Yeah. Do we have 2 estimates? Is that what this is?
The earlier estimate by JFS is I guess it's an estimate. The Cummings provided a quote.
Okay. Is this something people would be comfortable with picking up next meeting?
I'm fine, I'm just trying to make sure I know what I'm looking at and
Yeah,
why we're doing it, that's all.
I think it's in a lot of ways a standalone issue. It's been before us probably for too long at the same time.
Let's move it then.
Well, I mean, over the last year and a half, and we haven't really made a decision on it. But given the budget season and the crunch that we're in tonight,
Yes.
if we could move this to 5:30 on the 27th.
Are both of these quotes for the same things?
JFS was just inside, and it's not quite clear that they're both doing the same things. I think JFS,
So the JFS one is equal to or compared relatively to the first quote, the 7,400.
yeah, right.
That's what it looked
Okay.
like.
So Thank you.
We have a little time to get back to continuation of the budget. We'll then have a short public comment and then have another half hour of budget.
Conversation that started with the additional assistant clerk treasurer, certainly considering the popular election season to come and the potential timing when Christina would be gone, that is certainly necessary for this year, and I would think maybe we leave it on here, and if there's a question as to whether it needs to be a permanent thing, could be handled next time around.
Sounds good.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, Frank?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to go back to, Mary brought it up at the last budget discussion, was the $30,000 for the Conservation Reserve Fund, which has, Mary, do you know offhand? It's somewhere at
427, I think, around there.
427,000?
Over 400.
Over 400 in it. And there is a concern, it has been underfunded in the last couple of years compared to years before that. But projects have not been moving through at the pace that they've been forecast. And Kate Lampton in her presentations every year does say it's kind of a crystal ball. Sometimes projects pop up and they move quickly. Sometimes two come to fruition at the same time. So it's been a comfortable thing to have enough money in there to feel like they can support projects that aren't necessarily on their radar. But given the budgetary constraints, that's $30,000 that I was looking at appropriating next year.
I don't think historically we've ever been short in that fund. And I think due to this particular pressures from this year, that it would be wise to, I think it would be okay to put that one off.
I'm fine with that.
To put that off, to take that out from the
Conservation Fund.
Conservation Reserve Fund in the transfers to other funds at the bottom, at the end. Fourth line from the bottom of those transfers. You see the last 2 years, we did not appropriate, and I think it was 3 years ago was the last project that went through.
Yeah, they were talking last time that there were some projects they thought would go through but didn't, and they're still
There.
working on some. So I haven't really seen anything, I haven't seen a project go through in the last year.
I feel like there was a project on the table just last week, right? Was it
I'm not
last
sure
week?
about last week. They did do a project either last year or the year before down on Lewis Creek.
Yeah, that 90 acres.
Yes.
And if all of the projects went through in this fiscal budget cycle, the fund had enough money to support all of them. What Kate's concern was is that
Goes to
it wouldn't
zero.
leave enough if they all went through to
Go.
stay an attractive fund for new projects that might be
Right,
looking
it might take years
to build back up. So that was where the request came in this year to actually, put a chunk back in. So that's what I remember of the presentation.
Right.
The improvement and repair fund. Now, we budgeted an additional $46,000 from last year's. Can we go over
Yeah.
what those are earmarked for?
So, Moncton Road has 30,000 earmarked. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's the capital, sorry, never mind, that's the highway capital fund.
Yeah.
improvement and repair fund, town hall roof is 25,000, senior center roof 30,000, senior center heat pumps 5,000, senior center air conditioning unit 4,000. We had the bollards in there for 2,000, which would not have been sufficient anyway, but if that's approved for this fiscal year, that can be removed. And storm windows for the museum of 5,000.
Does anyone want to adjust any of those?
The museum transition, Charlotte does something with weatherization. I wonder if the museum checked with them.
Not sure.
Why does the senior center need air conditioning again on top of the heat pump?
The air conditioning unit is 18 years old, and they want a budget over the next 3 years just to make sure that they have enough in case it fails.
But doesn't a heat pump include air conditioning?
The air conditioning, I think, was for the kitchen, because the heat pumps were good at keeping stable temperatures, but when there were spikes,
That
That
should
was the
get clarified,
explanation.
because typically a heat pump provides hot or cold.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It does provide cool. I don't think it moves. I think the air handler is what was the issue.
Yeah.
And maybe air conditioning isn't the right term. Maybe it was air handler.
Air handlers, usually a bunch of ducts and a motor and a fan, and if something goes wrong, the motor does, you replace the motor and everything else is
Yeah, no,
static, so that,
I thought this was a split air conditioning unit and the price seems it,
12,000.
Yeah, this is a separate unit.
like a
well, if it's
Mitsubishi.
18 years old, it's an old school air conditioner only.
Currently, right. And
But-
this would be switching to a split. The explanation I got was that the heat pumps couldn't take 50 people in a room and a full kitchen cooking, and that they'd need to kick the air conditioner on to get it back to a temperature that people could be in. That was from their budget presentation. I don't know, I didn't see any study from Mountain Air, or I think they use CSI,
Yeah.
Climate Systems. That was the explanation.
Usually
So
in
the
a,
heat pumps,
Usually the heat pump, like data point of one, our house, we don't even use the heat pump in the winter. We just use it for air conditioning. But that's what, data point of one, a small house, so. I don't know.
We use heat and air conditioning with them in
Yeah.
commercial buildings, but.
Yeah. I
I don't know.
I don't know if that was done, because when you have a commercial kitchen, you have a heat load, but then you generally have a commercial vent hood, and your biggest problem is
Losing it.
sucking all the air out of the building, not making sure you're accommodating that extra heat.
How many heat pumps is this?
They were proposing two, one for the kitchen, dining room, and one for the great room.
So that could be a two replacement of two different heat pumps.
Those are big rooms.
Yeah. Because there's already a boiler in there too.
I thought the heat pumps were the 15,000, 7,500 each.
Yes.
And then does seem to be some confusion there.
We could press pause. This is 3 years out. They're conservatively planning for this request, but I don't think, this is a necessity.
Yeah, an assessment of exactly what they have for equipment there and where they want to go to.
Even a presentation from, CSI or someone with a little technical background.
I want the heat pump guy to tell me that I need extra air conditioning.
I couldn't hear you.
I said I would want the heat pump guy to tell me that I absolutely needed extra air conditioning.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If we get an assessment on what exists, and if we add 2 heat pumps, what do we need to actually do? Do we need to even keep what we have, or do we need to have something to supplement it?
So we taking out the 9,000 this year and bring that up?
Yeah.
ask the senior center to bring that up?
Do you want to bring them back before the, I mean, either on the 27th or?
I think if, I don't know, if,
So we got the
Well,
information
you-
for a
I
presentation.
think there's not enough.
if they do before the next meeting,
Okay.
that would be great.
So is that just for the, didn't put anything in last year for the town hall roof, or did we?
We did put in 25,000 last year.
Okay, so now we're up to 50 against that 70.
We are currently at 50.
The carpets use some of it, don't they?
We're currently actually at 60,000. The estimate from Ellis in 2017 was 69,000. If we do the lighting this year, that's gonna bring it down 17,000. So, yeah. $52,000, so we need to make it up with about 20,000, just considering the,
Try to do another 25.
That's what's in there currently.
Yeah, I think I'd be good with that.
And how come the senior center can't be 25 then?
that estimate was from Peter Denton. For the
To do this standing seam roof?
For the senior center roof.
For standing seam?
That is, you know, the total cost is 90,000, so they're starting to build for it.
Do we know what this, I mean, what's the, I mean, what would be the cost difference? I'm just trying to figure out. We're
Why
talking
70,000 here and 90,000 over
70,000
there?
here, 90,000
Um,
there.
Different contract. I don't know.
I
It's
thought they
more-
had a more complex roof, the peaks and the valleys, the addition. That was what
Do they
I
have
remember
the square
saying.
footage?
But it's not the
Yeah, we
same
got it.
estimate either. You know, it's a different contractor.
Right, ours is old.
You've got the guy's name that's doing the,
Yeah, you gave me his name, I gave him a call. I forget the name of it too, at the library.
Or ask Peter for a quote on
A
both?
quote over here.
Quote over here.
yeah, we've got one more meeting for that.
I want to get quotes from everybody.
Yeah.
I would maybe ask that, you know, Peter to come and look at this roof, and then ask those guys to, whatever their name was, Cold Hollow, I think it was.
Yeah.
Because some people go out and buy the stuff already made and bent. These guys start with a roll of stock and bend it, cut it, fit it right on the spot, which
That's
is
the way to go.
probably cheaper, the way to go.
Definitely.
So
I
ask
called
them
the-
to
I
give us a
called the
price
landline.
on this one and that one.
I called the landline for Cold Hollow, but I couldn't get through to the mobile.
Okay.
I can get another contractor to give a price on that.
Okay.
Actually, Happy Hollow.
Both?
Sure, yeah. I mean, he has a roller, so.
I'll go out and just talk to the guys tomorrow when I'm over there, say, hey,
Yeah, I just don't know if he's bonded for projects this
we'll
big.
trade you your progress payment for a quote on these other two buildings.
So leave this in for a placeholder.
Yeah, let's drop the senior center down to 25. And if people okay with that
The roof, okay.
for the roof?
Sure.
And then take out the other two.
And we're taking out
Both, or do you want to keep one in as a,
let's take
Place.
them out, and if they have time to come with technical explanation next meeting, then we can put it back in.
57, so going back to,
It'd be good to have them come back, because the senior center maintenance doubled. Went up 100%. And I remember the siding was one large piece of that. top of page 4 one.
That's, right, their siding was
See that?
on the back side is failing, but in various parts on the rest of the building.
Miserably.
And should that be in maintenance or should that be in the improvement and repair? That was a question I had. It's from an accounting. Reciting the building? You know, I think,
Yeah.
I was thinking, it's not
Yeah.
like routine maintenance. And it just seemed odd to see it double, you know, we don't see those types of jumps.
What did they do in 1819 that made their actuals for maintenance 21,395?
Might have been the counter, they replaced the
The
counter
kitchen.
inside the
So they
kitchen.
did a lot of the kitchen.
In an emergency state, right before,
Thanksgiving.
Right before a party.
yeah. And then there was a lot of fixtures that had to get replaced that were not,
The plumbing
put
that,
back
the plumbing
together,
that wasn't estimated, that it would have to be moved
right,
and replaced.
right. So that was just additions. But I don't remember all of it, what that 21 was.
Yeah, I mean,
Are these numbers for the senior center, are they net of the revenues they bring in for all the
No.
programs?
No, the senior,
separate.
Separate, okay.
yeah. Senior Center is bringing in a budgeted 30,500
Okay.
and is budgeting 134,000 basically in expenses.
They try and keep their revenue a similar number to their program expenses.
Right.
So they have 29,000 for program expenses projected.
Okay, and that's what, they're trying to match the revenue to that, okay.
The director went up because of hours, $6,000?
Yes.
Went
Right.
from 35 to 40
To 40.
hours.
Are we gonna move that maintenance?
Yeah, I'd like to bring the maintenance back to level funded and put the difference into the improvement and repair fund.
But don't you need to know what that 24 actually is?
Right.
Like when they came in, what did they say the 24 was the reason for?
Right, I'd have to look to see what the,
In the
Because it might
packet.
how
not
much went
be-
to
it might
siding
not
and
be
how much went
capital
to
at all.
other
Maybe
things.
we should do the shuffling around when they're here to answer the questions.
Okay, so let's have them come back next meeting. We'll do the lion's share. That's a 18% proposed increase. That's a lot.
We need to sneak a public comment in here. I think there's
Public
any-
comment, yep. Sorry, press pause on budget, thank you.
I
Sorry.
don't think there's any here. but
Okay,
those who are
making up
marking
time.
things off on their agenda here makes me feel good. I put another line through.
Nice, we just bought 5 minutes, thank you. Continuation, 7:05.
She's only 5 minutes behind now, catching up.
Oh, yeah, okay.
More budget.
You know, the Trails Committee is here.
Budget, yeah, the budget hasn't changed a lot. You want to talk about what you were thinking for an article number?
I guess Lori had sent something to Dean and
Oh, an article?
the article and the supporting documents behind that. Were you guys able to see some of that?
I don't think that was supporting documents.
Well, Louise had asked, she came to the Trails Committee meeting and just asked for more specifics about how we came up with the price per foot that we're using. So we did send along some of those. But basically, we're looking, we agree with you that the best way would be to bring this to the town through articles, asking for $62,000 a year for 5 years. And Dean had said that he can't ask for multiple year funding. Is that true?
Is that a state
The
statute?
town attorney, I know back when the conservation fund was initially approved, it was approved for a 10-year period to add 2 cents to the tax rate. Checking with the town attorney now regarding this, he said, despite what was done in the past, their feeling recommendation is to fund each year individually and not have an article that would fund something over 5 years.
I mean, we would just go back, we would present it like we're gonna come every year for the next 5 or so years until we can have some continuity, complete some continuity on the trail. And that would hopefully be in 5 years. That's how we're gonna present it.
So Gina, I'm sorry. So the ruling from the town attorney was you can't make it multiple years.
Right, do a
Okay.
year at a time.
It might be easier for the town to pass 1 year and see what have you done in that year. Come
Yeah.
back the next year, this is what we did, this is what we're gonna do, so it's a little bit more work, but it's fine.
Fine.
And so that was an email that you and Dean got an email about all the specifics?
Well, I think the Trust
or-
Committee had asked about having a 5-year article. That
And I
was-
thought, I thought that was a pretty smart way to do it, multiple years, but if that's not gonna work, then it's not gonna work.
We've also, like in the past, we just sent like Josh Ryan's information about how to build the trail, what the specs will be, how we came up with that base $20 a foot is kind of what we're using for an estimate. And so his budget for State Park Road and, I'm happy to answer any questions about that if you have.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is creating continuity. There's been, just.
I think you guys have
we can
done a
improve
really
that.
good job trying to get the concrete, the two things, concrete, how much it's gonna cost
Yep.
to do something, and then the other thing was making sure that for every piece of this, there is someone in charge.
I think having a professional in charge seems like everyone agrees moving forward, that's important.
Yeah.
And thank you for being so generous to me. My son did make it to Christchurch.
Oh, good. Good.
And at town meeting, do you ask for like a 15-minute, so to do a 15-minute presentation with the article? I don't know how
We
that
didn't really
works.
discuss the format. I think the last year's formats have been good, and we have had presentations in the beginning of the meeting. That's something we had to work out with the moderator every year. Lane kind of did that with Charlie. It's his meeting.
I think so. I think it was.
Try to coordinate whether the screen went up and down and leave this, you gotta go twice and get a walk and it's whatever.
Talk about budget-related articles or
Yeah.
not, and when.
Right.
Yeah.
Mary?
So then it seems like it's better to talk about the article when it comes up, and so be ready to give your presentation then.
Yeah.
Because in the past, when we did those little presentations before, some of them went on and on and on to the point where people kind of lost track of where they were and they didn't know. It was
Which
like,
article?
okay, so are we talking about the budget, or are we just talking about presentation? I thought it was kind of confusing, but if you just have your articles and you have your, article whatever's trails stands up and they give their presentation, and then people can ask their questions related to trails, and then we can vote on the article for trails.
We
And
have,
it is the moderator that runs the meeting.
So we'll just ask Charlie, I'll ask Charlie if he can
We have to-
recognize you first when the article comes up
It seems
for a
important,
presentation.
it seems important if we're gonna say $62,000 to explain exactly what that is.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important piece of it.
Yeah.
To have that time up front before the article gets printed.
And we'd really just be voting to have it on the ballot.
The number to be voted on April.
Right.
Right. And people can adjust it up or down, or whatever they want to do, but at least you would have your discussion on that article.
I agree.
Great. And so that's, the number is
62,000.
62,000, okay.
62,000.
So we can put
But
that
is
in there.
that 57,000 on the article and 5,000 in the budget? That's how I saw it in the budget.
In the past,
Yeah.
yeah, so the 5,000,
Or
that's,
are you doing 62 and 5?
62 and 5.
So 67 a year is going into the fund? If the town says yes?
Well, the 5,000 is what is
Part of the budget.
part of the budget. So that wouldn't be part of the article, right?
Well,
You're
it
requesting
depends.
a total of 62,000
so then you're saying
to
that is
move
62?
into your special fund.
62,000 times
So
5.
62,000 is what we're asking for, and then we're going to try and ask for that for 5 years, and then it'll go back to 5.
Okay, so
Got it.
if
So,
it's a separate
There is,
article, and
yeah.
the separate article says
57.
62,000,
Yeah,
then
then the
you're
budget should say
getting the
0.
budget.
right.
But that's a risk.
I'd say leave 5 in the budget. So,
Well, and it's a one-year risk.
Is an article.
So you could do 57 and then keep the 5,000.
Yeah,
And I would say,
to keep the continuity there.
if you want to do that,
Yeah.
or worst case scenario, it comes out on the floor that this was the discussion and we want that article at the very minimum to be for 5,000. 6 and 1/2 dozen the other.
I'd say leave it in the budget.
Yes.
So
I would say
57 and 5.
57 for the article.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
And then, sorry.
Yeah, please.
So how do we find out, or how do we work out that 15-minute presentation, or how do we find out if that's a feasible thing for the
Well,
presentation, no, if they allow it, I
And
guess.
they were just like we did it last time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure it's allowed. I
yeah,
think
we can have some plans.
Okay.
If I get recognized first, I'll defer my time to you guys for a 15-minute presentation, whatever. Parliamentary lead, get there.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Sounds how it works.
Yeah, I'm sure Charlie will be okay with it.
Sorry, just changed to save.
Is there anything in the trails budget people want to discuss while they're here?
All right.
In just
The
the,
$1,500?
yeah, no,
Not for us.
okay.
It's mostly going to maps, which hopefully is all.
Yeah,
And
it's a
our
great map.
Annual fundraising.
Yep.
Do you happen to know? Sorry.
I can look it up if you want.
It's plus 3.6. The match. How much? 3 plus the match?
Do we have maps printed right now if somebody wanted a map?
Yeah, okay.
I have a really hard time not having them at this initial lot.
You should get.
I know, I've been asking for a long time.
Is there a
I
trails
got a really
revenue?
small amount and.
Is there a
never
trails
got
revenue
them
line?
since. I'd like to have them.
They're $1 each, so
We
we
just-
have, I think we ordered 200 of them or something like that, and they actually.
I mean, how can I
But we
promote
do have more,
trails
and we have to
without
follow
having a
them.
map?
Okay.
The
We'll bring
people
some.
liked them on the counter.
People like maps.
They do like maps. They like
Should see how many Bolton Valley maps I have in my jacket pockets.
Yeah, $1 each.
No, they're still free.
Yes, I can do that. Definitely.
$75 trails ticket, and you get a free map.
You know what, if you just made me a mimeograph one of some of the maps or something, it doesn't have to be waterproof, it
No,
doesn't
there's
have
no
to
more
be
waterproof.
fancy.
The waterproofs are all gone.
Yeah,
but
it
this
doesn't
is
have to
just
be
regular
fancy, it
paper.
just needs to be something for me to say to someone that I know that enjoys and might not know as much about the trails as you want. You need to have something in front of me.
I was curious, why is recording fees going up so much? Revenue?
Yeah, nice, huh?
Yeah, really nice.
Because the state changed the fees that we could charge. They went from $10 a page
To-
for recording to $15.
Okay, thank you, I love the Carpenter
50%.
Road Trail.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Great, okay. Well, that
There you go.
pays for a part-time position
Thank you.
more.
we putting 30,000 where you want to be at now?
We're shaving. The listers, why did they add legal? Is that what I was looking at? From the town report from last year that's changed?
Nothing in there.
There's no legal in the budget.
There was no legal last year. This year, so that legal expense has been absorbed by the select board legal? Where does it get applied?
What legal?
Listers incurred $2,506,
Oh,
1920.
that's a Clark Hinsdale thing, probably.
But then the year before, 2346 in
Right.
1819.
That's
Where-
another Clark thing.
So is your question where it gets paid out of?
Yeah, where does that get drawn from?
It used to, back in the day, the legal fees were always, no matter what department,
It was select
it
board.
was select board.
Right. Now planning and zoning has their own. The question is, it looks like you added in having the listers
I
have
mean,
their
the
own?
listers is really difficult. They would never
don't
typically
have a
have
budget.
legal fees, except for they have this odd case where, you know, you have somebody that wants to go to court and you have to have representation, and so there you go. It's something that they would be able to plan for. So it's kind of like easier to just say zero, and if something terrible happens, well, you know, we can't do anything about it.
Right.
And you guys, the select board has, I mean, really has more than enough budgeted for legals anyways.
Yeah. So let's take that out as a line.
There's
There's nothing in
there's
there.
nothing budgeted. It's an actual for this year.
Yeah, but it's just confusing that it's accounted for but not budgeted. I'd rather, if that money is getting applied to the select board legal, then legal should come out of the listers.
As estimated.
Is there actually an account? I think there might be an actual.
It's not getting paid from their budget.
It's kind of opposite of what the auditor line is presented are supposed to be, the clearest.
The
So,
listers actually did have.
And I'm not sure what precipitated the change.
There
since
actually is a legal
line?
NEMRIC, yeah, line in the NEMRIC.
So that line has to stay a number of years while since there's been money that's been taken out of that line, or however you want to say it, I can't go in and delete.
Right. But
So
I
it
guess
just has to say zero.
that's in NIMRIC, but last year's town report, there's no legal in the exact same presentation.
Okay,
I'm just
so I would need to add this to the select board legal
or-
actual.
Yeah, or leave it the way it is and I just need to know why it's different than last year's town report. Because there are numbers in here that aren't reported in last year's town report.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Whatever's in the town report should be exactly what is in the NEMRIC
Right,
report.
right.
They should match each other.
Okay, so then this new one that you made this year, Dean, where you added legal into the listers subcategory should stay like that. And last year's town report was wrong. This presentation, not the NEMRIC presentation.
Right, I'll have to see whether it came out of, whether
That,
it
right,
was in the actual for
Yeah.
the select board.
that's what I'm trying to get a handle on.
Just while we're in the listers, if I can.
Well, the same is true for advertising. So it's the same issue. There's no advertising in last year's town report in the listers, but it's been added in this year's Excel
Well, I think
spreadsheet.
they have it in their budget actually this year. There is they did put it in their budget. $200 isn't a whole lot, but,
No. So,
they,
and is that a line in NIMRIC?
Yes.
Or you'll make one?
there is a line.
Advertising there is? Thank you. They have
So
legal?
because there wasn't any expense previously, there wasn't a line in the town report,
For the last 2 years, 3 years?
at least in recent.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
Okay, I have a question about listers.
Yep,
So if you do go to a appraiser,
to appraiser. yeah.
assessor, whether that lister salary will be sufficient? Maybe all listers combined might be sufficient? But I don't know. It
You
looks,
have an appraiser line too.
well, the appraiser, I think that is for what NIMRIC does already, but replacing the listers with
An assessor.
an assessor would be in addition to that.
The tw-
That may or may not depend on the qualifications of the person that you hire. If you
And the amount of
run
time.
across someone who's an experienced appraiser and wants a part-time lister job, they could very well do the stuff that NIMRIC did if they're qualified. So, I don't know if
So I guess it amounts to, an hourly rate, which I think is in the neighborhood of,
Could be a contract, right?
for,
With an
Growing.
assessor? Sign a contract for X amount?
Right, but how many?
Yeah, it
how
could be
many
an employee
hours
at an
a week
hourly
is
rate,
this
too, I mean.
Assessor gonna need to be here.
These are all unknowns.
yeah, they are.
So the question is, how do we want to budget for
Right.
it?
NIMRIC comes on Fridays, that's the assessor line that's in here. And the lister is here 4 days a week. Or how many hours? I don't even know. 22 or 23, something like that. So, and that works out to be, you don't want to do that in 2 8-hour, 3 8-hour days, because then it's, you spread it out, so.
Yeah, I'd say status quo, and we'll see what the,
I think for budget-wise, I would too,
Yeah.
yeah.
if it happens. It's really not up to us yet. Just one down for delinquent taxes. I think we have the room to write out delinquent taxes total. Right now, it's just Dell taxes
In
in the sub total.
Total there,
If we
okay.
do, can we? And then the same below for employee benefits total. I think we have enough room for that.
Didn't know we had any imps here.
Oops.
Going for some easy ones. Any argument there?
What was it? Sorry, for.
The next one
oh,
down,
employees.
employee,
Yep.
I think we could get. And then, although I am not touching any numbers in Junior's budget, the wording, fourth line down, gravel road, I think we can write out maintenance. Looks like there's room. And then,
Geez, I thought we should go to all acronyms, so you just have GRM and let people,
brush tree,
that's the way the world's going now, everything's on your phone and an acronym.
2 down, Dean, can we do brush/tree removal? That one went down a lot this year. Yeah, or for next year, it'll go down a lot. $20,000 less. Because the tree warden's taking it. The ash tree, 20,000.
So Junior, dude, how come you don't mow the row of trees across from the old lantern? How come that's not part of
That sounds right.
roadside
It's not in
maintenance?
the town right away.
Oh,
It's town land, but it's not in the town right away. It's like down to the Thompson's Point. We mow
what you can.
what is the right of way, the 25 feet or so. But we don't mow around the trees.
Going to the next page, town lands, second from the bottom. Village wastewater system maintenance. Is that a prediction?
Sorry, that was the town lands?
Yep. Just above the library.
Okay. That is budgeting for some of the tasks that haven't been done, including doing well, this year we are doing the filters, but going out to the D-box and,
New pump?
no
No,
new
this is-
equipment, just evaluating.
Maintenance that we really should have been doing from the beginning, but
Deferred.
just didn't.
Okay.
We can't do that. We have to,
I mean, we've added checking filters, checking lines, and all that other stuff.
So that's kind of going to be a blip.
It should be a
Yeah,
consistent
Or that
I
would
thing.
be
mean, some
every
of it-
year.
Yeah, every 3 years, every 3 or 4 years probably, is
Yeah.
some of that. Some of it will be every year. The filters will be every year. The D-box and whatnot will be every few years.
I guess she left, but custodial services went up quite a bit at the library. That's because it's a bigger building.
No. I think they pay more.
Just pay more. And energy went up also, quite a
that's
bit.
interesting because of the focus on energy efficiency.
Yeah,
It's a bigger
that-
building.
That was,
Well, the oil is zero,
Fair enough.
is
there's,
what I remember them saying.
that energy is kind of a fluid thing now that, I mean, but at the time this budget was done, I don't think they had all of the inputs from the testing and stuff that they've had ongoing as it's being built.
Yep.
So if, that may be different now, depending on the input of the consultants and how things have turned out.
Mary?
Just to go back to town lands, were you gonna change village mowing and lower that,
Oh, yeah, we did gloss over that.
like 5?
Down to 5, you're saying?
You're gonna make your expenses will seem to be higher if you know, keep separating out from village mowing the different pieces. So if it just, village mowing includes tree mulching or air spading or whatever, then that's what it is. But if you say, oh, the mowing is this, and then it's gonna be 1,200 for tree mulching, and it's gonna be 800 for air spading, and and the people that are bidding on it are gonna go crazy.
So-
I mean, it just seems easier if you just say village mowing, and this is what we want you to do. We want you to mulch the trees and mow the lawn. How much you gonna do for it? It's kind of been in that $5,000 ballpark.
So how many numbers goes with trails? You got trail maintenance, and you got the trails fund, and then you got the reserve fund.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Just weird that everything's all spread out.
Yeah, I had a thought and just never brought it up to have all of these go into all the town lands. But this is,
And just because the trails, we have a trails committee and they have a budget, and
well,
we
same
have
with
trails maintenance. so
cemetery
it's-
maintenance is in town lands, but that could be in the cemetery commissioner's budget.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Mary, do you know why, from an accounting, why that we lump these? Is that
Why we what?
why the cemetery maintenance is in the town lands versus in the cemetery's budget? Or the trail maintenance is in the town lands instead of the trails budget?
I mean, trail maintenance is really trail mowing, and it's in the it's in the mowing contract. So
Town land.
it's nothing that the Trails Committee is involved with.
Cemetery maintenance was always basically mowing the town cemetery, which is our cemetery. And it is, those are town lands.
So these are all contracts that the select board
Don't
directly
appropriate any more
approves,
Committee budgets.
not the
Yeah.
committees.
I mean, technically, the cemetery mowing is signed off by the Cemetery Commission because they,
Statutorily,
right.
okay. But when it comes time for budget presentation, it'd be nice to see all of the money being allocated by the taxpayers to a specific
Use.
effort
Yeah.
or use, yeah. Even though it's broken up on the, in the accounting. Did people want to change the village mowing number?
That was what, because we included tree work or something?
The air spading for these mature maples so they don't stunt, and the extra work and, was it? I don't know.
Mulching. Mulching is in there.
Why don't we put it in at 5?
Okay.
Was that 5?
5?
That? Lynn?
Maybe we can cut down a few less ash trees.
Julie?
Do you anticipate rush hour to be as high as it was this year, or is that because of the contracting issues that you guys had? Just a question. It ties into the village mowing, that's why I asked.
Brush hogging,
It's $2,000 more than it has been.
We increased the number of places we're brush hogging, I think.
we did, especially down by the lake,
Thompson's Point.
Thompson's Point.
Yeah, we had the fields too, they kept getting smaller.
Yeah. So yeah,
So
probably
it's
will stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
They grow in to the fields, to make the fields
were
smaller.
becoming town.
But that budget could be smaller as we go forward because they'll be mowing it more regularly or
Yeah.
Not much.
brushing it.
You're gonna make it pass, it'll be a little bit faster, but it's not make you pass with the tractor.
If we go way down the next page, town hall, just wanted to make the same line, language everywhere.
9,000 back down to 7, because
Says concept
we don't need to put an extra tool in there for lighting, because the lighting seems to be coming from all over the place.
I would agree with that. Or, yeah, level fund it. Can we write custodial services versus custodian? That's how it's in the other departments.
I was looking at the recreation.
Just in town hall for a second.
Yes.
So we've been hearing noises coming from the computer room for a couple months now. And apparently the switch is about 10 years old and it seemed to get a little bit quieter, at least currently, but if we want to just make sure that it doesn't fail and then we're without internet for 5 days or something while they get a new one. So I just wondered about budgeting for that. It's tech group provided a quote actually of $1,180 and then about 2 hours of work, so about $300.
That would go in the equipment line item?
Yeah.
Darn
Unless it happens this
It
fiscal
has an
year.
internal fan that is squeaking. I don't think you can take the thing apart and put a new fan in it, probably.
How many years did we get out of it?
About 10.
10?
That's a lot.
That's a lot. It's like 20 computer generations.
We're doing $1,500.
That's what I was thinking, 15.
Was that 1,500?
Right.
Yeah, that's approximately the cost and the labor.
You wanted to go back up to recreation?
Yeah, I was just looking at the tennis courts. So it's been 1,000, 1,200, and now it's at 21.
Bill's presentation. I know last year was the first year they went with the professional service to do the crack filling. The year before, Bill was doing that. I don't know why it jumped 900. It's right in the middle.
It's right there.
Right in the center. Just a question. Just a question, maybe to get clarification on.
Okay.
I got the tennis thing. It says the 2100 is crack repair and upkeep 1600, cleaning tools 100, and pressure washing 400.
And how many years have we done this?
Crack repair has been every year for at least.
Well, I know the
last
crack
4 or
repair,
5
but
years.
the pressure washing and the tools. I'm not saying tools you wouldn't buy once and hopefully have them for years, but
Yeah, I would think you would.
I think the crack repair and upkeep for 1600 is the questionable cost,
Is it what?
is the question. Because it hasn't been that high before.
no. Like clarification on that number might be good.
Okay. So that one we'll need.
Since there's no snow in there, I would take a look.
Just a little bit of ice.
You want them to come back on that? I think they got a quote, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, or maybe even that, just an answer, either
Yeah.
from Nicole or from Bill would be fine.
Just to verify the number.
I have a question about the Energy Committee increase. And as a percentage, it's a pretty hefty increase.
Actually, I think some of that is for lighting also. So if the lighting is done in the current fiscal year, I think it was 2,000 was in there for lighting.
Oh, well,
Well,
Mary's got her
did they do
notes.
some of the library stuff too? The testing and estimating?
They were gonna look at the I think the fire station next for efficiency and whatnot.
They did a report on the fire
Oh,
department,
they
of the
did.
fire station.
Oh.
The
I can tell
Their
you
meeting is just to
Huh?
to actually do some of the work.
I can tell you what the 7720 is.
Okay.
Fire and rescue air sealing, 2,000 with a $1,000 rebate, but they, whatever. Senior center roof weatherization, 1,500. Town hall LED upgrade, 2,000. Window dressers program, 900. Pollinator demo field, 220. Community energy outreach, 800. Fossil-free jamboree, 800. Conferences, 500. The 7720 budget only includes $1,000 for the fire and rescue air sealing, so they did a net thing instead of expensing it at 2,000, which they really should have, but anyhow. So then when we said we can do our own lights, we're gonna take $2,000 out of there,
Okay, so I already did that, I guess.
then they said, well, if you're gonna take $2,000 out of our budget, you're gonna put $2,000 in your budget,
Okay.
which town hall maintenance went from 7 to 9.
Okay.
Now we just took out the 2 from town hall.
Because I must say, when I was looking at the warrants this morning, there was a bill for about $900 from a solar consulting company. And I was which is, I assume is going to be in the Energy Committee's budget. And I was I was very surprised at that. And I went online to check out who this group was, and I mean, they look perfectly legitimate, but it does raise the question as to why we would be spending $900 for solar consulting. But anyway, that's why, as long as it's in their budget and it's their discretion, right? But I am wondering why the big increase. But Mary, right, if we're gonna do our own lights, then it's gotta be in our budget.
No.
Right.
I'll go out on a limb and say that if they do air sealing and get the grant, that the fire department special funds will pay for the other $1,000.
Okay.
So we can get that, take that out of there.
So you're saying reduce it by 1,000?
If we're taking 2 out for the lighting, because we're doing it in another one,
Yeah.
then there was another 1,000, they got 1,000 for a grant,
Right.
and then the other 1,000 was to be paid by the town, but the
Right.
special funds will pay that other 1,000.
That's fine. I was raising the question about the Energy Committee and why, as a percentage, that's a very large increase. And also my surprised when I looked at the bills, that there was a bill for about $900 for solar consulting.
So for instance, if 1,000 is being paid by fire and rescue special funds, it can be reduced out of the Energy Committee's budget? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what they had. There was 2,000 for air sealing, 1,000 was a grant, and then 1,000 is to be paid by the town.
So I'll
But I'm
reduce it by-
sure that special funds will pay for that 1,000, so you could take net 1,000 out of there.
Okay.
We look at that, man. It's pretty exhaustive. One thing, Dean, I wanted to, and look at this with everyone, maybe a first look now. Maybe you could show us the current format, but maybe a draft of a new one on the last page here. I was just trying to read it for just the ease on the eye as we follow the numbers. And you know, looking at this every year for the last 5 years, it's still, I had to like ask myself the question.
To be true. I mean, you know, not every year there is a surplus, so I mean, that line is redundant or is maybe unnecessary.
Could be, or isn't. I was looking more at the top. So revenues non-tax correlates with the very top line of the first page.
Or the total of the revenues.
The total except the top line, right? Because the
Right,
top line
correct.
is municipal tax revenue.
Right.
Everything else added
Yes,
up
correct.
equals that.
Yep.
Then I was thinking the next line down could be the expenses line. Then that third line being revenues minus expenses is how I've seen it, so that it's actually a negative number. And that then leads the reader to be able to see what the municipal tax request is going to need to be. It's the shortfall is what's shown.
So let me just ask, when you said expense total, the expense would stay where it is that correct? I mean, expense total?
Where is the expense total?
It's basically under CVFRS appropriation, prior deficit, tax appeal adjustment, and then expense total. So that's basically, everything above has been expense.
That would be the subheading for expense total. But then you have like a separate worksheet here, right?
So they basically add a line between the
Like-
revenues non-taxed and the expenses minus revenues.
You see how this is like separate? This back page? And here's why I'm seeing it. And we can make it like it's a whole summary of everything, because you're already showing revenues non-taxed for the second time. So it's not really like a profit and loss statement, it's
Okay.
really a summary of everything.
Okay.
And this way, it can step by step get to the reader to see what the estimated tax rate's gonna need to be.
Okay.
So the first one would be revenues non-tax, the second line would be expense total. The third line would be revenue minus expense, so we show a negative number there in parentheses. It's a little confusing
Just see a positive number. Or
with through a subtraction and know what that positive number means, when really it's what we're trying to levy for taxes. I think if it's naturally negative, it's more straightforward for the reader. Then the grand list, I think, is clear, that shows the value. Now, tax rate for budget is that next line.
yeah,
Is that,
that's basically, not including articles.
so then I was thinking of change, you're right, so then I wrote in like the idea of, could that line say dollars to be consistent with 5 lines down, dollars to raise W/out articles?
Okay.
And that would correlate 5 lines down with the line that says dollars to raise with articles. So now the reader sees that there's, 2 straightforward amounts of money that would need to be raised.
And maybe it doesn't need to say additional articles, maybe it's just articles, or is that?
No, I didn't, yeah, dollars to raise without articles?
No, I meant,
Oh, the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, how would, they are, I mean, additional is basically, I think, referencing that the budget itself is an
Yeah,
article.
Right, okay.
But I'd be open to suggestions how to, other ways of saying that.
That's fine, leave it.
And then, oh yeah, under dollars to raise without articles, the year to date, 1920 is blank, but we have that number, right? Or it doesn't exist because we had articles. So then 4 lines from the bottom, tax rate with articles, that number should be plugged in for year to date. That's the existing tax rate for this fiscal year. We need that one populated.
You're saying year to date, it's.
Yeah. Or is that the same as the
The
approved?
approved, it turns out.
It
to be,
is?
Yeah, it's,
We didn't change it at all in August when we set the tax rate? It was a question, I'm not sure,
Right.
but. You know if that's the tax rate right now? I can't,
I think it is, but I'd have to, Mary's gonna check.
because we had it at, that's what we budgeted it for with articles.
The current tax rate is .2021. It gets to 2026 when we add in the local tax rate that we set at .0005.
So it's 0.2026
Yep.
with the articles and the actual tax rate. So we should plug that in to the year-to-date number,
Saying right there.
1920. Yeah, it'd be 1 cent lower. Is that agreeable, Mary?
Well, why would the approved rate be any different than the actual? I mean, when you set the rate, you set the rate.
I think the approved is the budget estimate, which would be in the town report.
Right. I think approved there is a little misleading. It wasn't what was approved, it's what we put in the town report for last year's budget if the articles passed,
But
not knowing.
that's kind of silly information because it's just, it's an estimate. You're estimating the.
Correct.
You're estimating the grand list,
Surplus, adjustments, retainage, yeah.
seems like you want actuals.
I have a question. Is the grand list only 9 million?
900, there's 2 more zeros,
Oh.
just the way they write it out.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
we should have that in parentheses. I think I've seen that somewhere, but just not
The
here.
grand list number is 1/100th of the real value of the town of Charlotte properties.
Right,
Oh, okay,
So
all right.
900,
All right.
million.
I'm with you.
worth of property.
yeah,
Looking
almost,
at that number going like,
almost $1 billion. Stowe's at, I don't know, 1.5 or 1.6.
I don't think, I'm not sure whether you said dollars to raise with articles year to date. You wanted the actual,
The actual tax rate,
but not dollars to raise because, I mean, year to date, that's,
it says tax rate with articles.
okay, tax rate with articles.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So that's a real one. Tax rate without articles, I guess we don't need to plug in because it never happened.
Right.
That one would have been a hypothetical.
Kind of the confusing part of that bit of the chart is that the headings, approved, actual, approved, year-to-date. I mean, that's headings for your
Budget.
revenues and expenses, but it shouldn't really be the headings for this, like, little, basically summary section, because you pretty much want to know what the budget and the tax rate, whatever, were for 18-19, what were they for 19-20, what are you projecting for 2021?
So it could say budgeted 18-19, actual 18-19, budgeted. I think it's trying to give a historical.
Right. I mean, currently it's all part of the same spreadsheet, but I can create a separate spreadsheet with different headings.
And have it just, yeah,
And year-to-date means nothing.
correct. I agree.
That shouldn't be part.
The only thing that really shows me is which things are being paid out monthly and which are being paid out annually, just by how much is shown there compared to the budget.
That's wrong. That should be.
Oh, no, not the
it's this one.
equations.
This one.
Oh, don't do it.
There, much better. It matches down below.
Oh, I hate this. A57 to C26. Okay, so is that,
Yeah, I'll work on that. Yep.
that's everything I had with that budget presentation. There's nothing else we can do with budget numbers for now? Need to hear back on a couple things. One other quick question. I know, sorry, going back to the beginning. Under revenue. In the town report, page 14, it says approved revenue for 18-19 was 1.762399. And here on the new one that we're gonna put in the town report, it's at 1.842399. Was that because of the articles?
Yes. Yep, because in the original, in the town report, actually, that would be an expense change. Which column was that? Approved 8-9?
Approved, yeah, 18, 19. At the very top.
Um, 1383566, or which,
So in the town report, municipal tax revenue was 1.762399
okay.
on page 14, the top line. But then in the one we're about to put in the town report, it's gone up
Okay, 1842.
$80,000. That's the 50 and 30 for the articles.
Yep.
So shouldn't that be in the actual, not in the approved?
No, because it was approved. That's when we approved the April vote approves the budget plus the articles. And so your expense budget that you're raising money for that's approved.
Got it. But the actuals came in less than that.
Delinquent,
Yes.
but, how big a difference is that?
The 1842399 is how much you needed to raise to
Zero out the,
be able to afford your $80,000 worth of articles that we voted for.
got it. Okay. And then that piece 4 lines over, where year to date is at 3.45.
That's, I know Mary always says, when do I put this in? We take in money for the school and then pay it out to the school. So this is mid-year, we haven't paid it all out yet.
Can't we? No, we're making interest on it now.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Okay, those are all of my question marks. Thank you.
Great questions, Brent.
How are we doing? Okay, 8:05. That brings us to hazard mitigation. Warning for town meeting?
Looks fine to me.
Great, Frank, did you have a chance to eagle eye it?
Yeah, I didn't really see anything wrong with it.
Can I ask,
For numbers that need to be put in.
we put the wastewater as an article and have it voted from the floor?
Can't. That was, we wanted to do that 4 or 5 months ago and asked the lawyers.
Yes, you can do that.
See,
About different things.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the question?
So if you, from what I understand, if you put it as an article, we vote on it, yes or no, to put it on as an article, then it can be discussed on the floor and voted on from the floor, and then we move on.
But
There's 2
I have a
ways.
legal question.
Yes.
Which is, Mary and I chatted about this briefly today, which is that, and I would, even though I totally support the wastewater ordinances, I would also support putting it to a vote at town meeting. But the question is, because I know there's a petition going, but
There's 2 ways. When somebody wants to have an article on the warning, and we vote our question off the floor, there's 2 ways that it can be accomplished. The person who wants the article can simply come to the select board and say, this is what I would like you to put on the warning. Could you please put this on the warning as an article so that we can all discuss it and vote on it at town meeting? Then the select board can just say yes, or they can say no, and then the person has to go out and get, go get the 175 signatures and submit it to the select board 44 days before town meeting to have it then be included on the warning.
and if we put it on, as you suggested, as the select board votes to put it on as an article, it's then binding.
It's like any other article.
No, just,
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand here.
Well,
You're just agreeing, you're just saying to, you know, okay, here's your petition, here's the wording. Yes, we'll allow it to go to the, you know, to the town to vote on. Not a problem.
Voting to a petition is to oppose an ordinance,
Yes.
which is different than things that are handled at the town meeting.
this is crossing two statutes. I don't know how they intersect. One statute is the process for repealing, the state's process for allowing the repeal of a town's ordinance. The other is the state's process for allowing the town to vote on things at town meeting as articles. I don't know which takes precedence or how. We could ask the town lawyers to look into that and see if they're in conflict, but
I just think that there's a population out there that would like to be a part of the discussion. There's certainly enough people out there who have no idea that there was any kind of sewer ordinance or sewer allocation or anything that was even discussed or talked about or whatever. You know, in reality, there's not that many people that show up at town meeting. But it seems like the select board took quite a bit of time to even get to the point where you accepted the two ordinances. There seemed to be a lot of discussion, so why wouldn't we want to have the town be able to have the chance to?
I think I heard everyone say that at some point in the development of these ordinances, that no one would oppose 5% of the population wanting to have that discussion at town meeting. That's why we approve the ordinances close enough to town meeting to allow a petition to appeal article to make it into the town meeting discussion on town meeting day.
Besides the 5%, whatever, petition, the select board can accept that petition and put it on the warning. You don't need 5% of the people handing in the petition. You can say, you can vote as a select board and accept putting that on the warning.
That's the intersection I'm not sure about, because we approved the ordinance, so.
We approved the ordinance, this is, and we
Approving
did
the
it
repeal of
so
it.
there can be another meeting that's held on the same day to make it, I mean, once we get the petition, the select board has to say, we got a petition, now we have to schedule a date for this meeting to discuss it. We did it so we could schedule that date concurrent with a town meeting, so we don't have to have two separate meetings.
And the
But they're
highest
two,
vote
they're
turnout.
two different creatures. I mean, I don't think you can mix the town meeting and an appeal of an ordinance and run them by the same rules. They almost need to be, okay, we're done with the town meeting part, now this is gonna be the time when we discuss, you know, I would think you'd have to finish the town meeting and then have the meeting that does the sewer.
The statute does say the ordinance, if there's a petition submitted, you know, and appropriately within the right time frame, that article is discussed at town meeting. Except if town meeting isn't within 60 days, then the select board calls a special meeting.
Okay.
So that's why,
That's
I'm
the
fine with
petition.
that, but what's confusing now to me, and I don't know the answer to this, is whether that we can, as a board, sort of bypass the petition process and as a group say, no, we vote to put an article on the town meeting to basically say, you know, refute what we did. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
that's the
don't know the
intersection of
answer
those
to
two
that.
statutes.
Well,
I don't
that
either.
kinda
We'd have
I
to
don't know
ask
the
the
answer to
council.
that.
What we said, that we vote to put it on there anyway in the first place. The advice we got was that you couldn't vote on this by,
That is That was my first comment, was
Yeah.
we're not allowed to have the town decide on an ordinance. But is the town allowed to decide on repealing the ordinance? Yes. Is the select board allowed to put that on there? I don't know. I think we would have to ask.
Find out.
So can you ask that question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm in that.
I mean, again, I'm repeating myself. I totally support these ordinances, but I also hear that people may want another chance to discuss it and vote on it, which I am also.
Which we've said all along, we wanted them to.
Which is fine, yeah.
We
I'm fine with
support
that.
it, but we'd like to let the
Yeah.
town.
Let the town decide, not
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
No,
want
I agree.
to circumvent that.
Because it's election week, so, yeah.
So we just don't know the the answer to that question, so we have to.
So I'm not quite clear on the question, sorry.
Is the select board empowered to directly put a petition to repeal the ordinance on the town meeting ballot without a petition for it? That's the question.
I think
As
see,
I
the first
understand it.
answer is gonna be, why do you wanna do
Or
that?
does
You just voted to do it, now you wanna vote to repeal it, are you guys nuts?
I mean, I wouldn't have the will
I
to
would
do
just
that,
I
but.
would just send Joe McLean a copy of the 2 petitions that are sitting there.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, Joe, can the select board just choose to put these up as articles on the warning board? Is there some reason that we absolutely have to, like, the only way we can get this on the warning is if we have the 175 signatures?
But these petitions are gonna be for a Australian ballot vote.
No,
They're just for a voice vote at town meeting?
yeah. There's no, we
You can't
can't
repeal
vote,
an
we
ordinance by-
cannot vote by Australian ballot.
You cannot repeal an ordinance by Australian ballot?
That's not how we
No, I
vote.
think
No,
it's by
it's
floor.
always by voice
Our
vote.
public questions are voice votes. So that is, and that's why well, you gotta ask the question, but the
Yeah.
select board has always been able to
Right. Voluntarily make, put any
voluntarily put
article
something on
it
the
wants.
warning.
Right.
Well, let's get an answer to that. Okay.
And the other petitions, because there's another mechanism for getting a petition on for town meeting, which is an affirmative petition. Any article. 5% of the town wants to mulch all the trees on the sides of the roads. They can petition that. That's different than the statute that allows a petition to repeal a town ordinance. And that's this intersection I just don't know. Needs the question.
Well, I think the initial petition said, shall the voters approve?
We got a legal review that
Should
is,
be disapproved.
that's not, there's no authority, the state grants no authority to the population of a town to approve an ordinance that's already approved. It only authorizes the repeal of an ordinance that's been approved.
Okay. So, there's your question for the night.
Okay, we'll find out.
It's a good one. It's all new.
As far as the legal fees go up.
Well, we're still under. And no more than 10 minutes.
Blame it on Mary.
So I also just want to point out Article 7, there was back and forth with the town attorney and the Secretary of State that the change from listers to an assessor, to eliminate the office of lister has to be by paper ballot.
From the floor.
I saw that.
From the floor.
And that was, I think I saw in the email chains, that went up to the Secretary of State and came back.
Yeah.
There's 2 different opinions by the Secretary of State.
That's really helpful.
How much different are they?
Well, it's just, the statute is so honestly vague. And it says, for eliminating the town of, the office of lister, a town may vote by ballot, whatever, I forget the rest. And then further down in another section in the statute, it says, if you change your mind, you can rescind your decision by a majority of the voters at town meeting, off the floor, and it says nothing about a ballot or anything. So the person that I talked to at the Secretary of State's office, she said, well, if a paper ballot was required, the wording would say a town shall vote by ballot. And then it would make sense that the way to rescind it would be the same way. It seems like if you're voting by paper ballot to do it, you would vote by paper ballot to get rid of it. And I said, well, so does this mean like, we vote from the floor, and then just like anything else, if somebody calls for a paper ballot, the little yes, no thing, then we would do a paper ballot just like any other vote? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, okay. But still, it's just kind of, the wording is weird to even, it's weird. So Will, at the Secretary of State's office, had a different opinion, which is that it would be voted by a paper ballot, which I guess is still the yes, no. Because I don't print up a ballot and, so whatever.
Bring it around.
There you go.
I mean, I guess we could have a yes, no piece of paper, but
I mean, we always have the yes, no, and it's always an option. It just, it's just, you can do whatever you want, I guess.
It only matters if somebody contests it.
okay.
Wait, we didn't talk about the charter. No,
Much? Where are we?
we were talking about the warning for town meeting.
I think we're all there.
We're gonna just let it go, bye-bye.
Do it, I'm sorry,
Carrie was looking at the administrator's report where you brought up the town charter.
oh, right, sorry. Ah, thank you.
Everything goes away.
The way I remember the discussion going when the sunset clause was put in and where to put it in was there's no difference in creating a new charter as there is in amending a charter. Procedurally, all the same steps have to be taken and all the same approvals are needed, and including legislative approval. So to me, this charter had one purpose. The town didn't say it wanted a charter, it said it wanted to try a different voting system. That voting system is clearly not benefited, and no one is petitioning to extend the charter, and so I would just let the charter as approved by the town, the select board, the town, and the legislature stand without amending it.
That's fine, I just want to check your assumption, or maybe you want to check your assumption with the town attorney that amending
That, yeah,
would
that was
require going to the legislature.
definitely part of the conversation. Oh yeah, every amendment of a town charter has to be approved by the legislature.
That's true.
And if we remember right, how did that go down in Montpelier? We had the chair didn't tell the board that they were going to Montpelier to hear it. Only 3 of them went, our state rep, one of the authors, and our chair. They didn't tell a soul, went up to Montpelier, and the recorder didn't work either. And a year got added to the whole thing. So this was bye-bye.
Yeah, a good experiment.
Yep.
Tried it. It'd be nice to come up with some other ideas next year about how to improve participation in other ways.
I think it's really just about having a great luncheon in the room next
Make
door,
it a-
a stand-up.
Food and free beer, you get
Yeah.
all it.
Can't have it at the school if you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Friday night.
We should have that on an agenda to talk about what we might want to advertise. Have a potluck.
Even for this year?
I mean, really, have a potluck down at the beach and there's plenty of food. Have a potluck for town meeting, maybe.
I mean, we used to,
I don't know.
they used to have child care services because there was no school.
Yeah. Wait, are they doing something about that?
There's school now, yeah. And there used to be a lunch down in the cafeteria.
But, well, one year when I talked to one of the principals about this before the charter came into effect, she actually said yes and suggested that maybe some of our young musicians would play during lunch, which I would love that.
I'm really hoping, last year, one of the classroom teachers brought their class down for 20 minutes. I think that,
But don't they do that every year?
not every year, but hopefully more and more.
I would think.
Tom, yeah. Trying to think, I think I did it with Mrs. Aube.
Miss Frazier's.
Sixth grade, yeah,
Miss
Mrs.
Frazier
Frazier.
last year.
Morning for town meeting. Can we skip the town report until the next meeting?
Perhaps I just want to, I know Carrie isn't.
Except for Carrie's comment.
Yeah, you know, if you want to change something significant, I mean, not significant, that takes effort, I think Carrie isn't a fan of that cover. I've kind of used this old one as a, you know, which had a cemetery picture, so I thought, I mean, I think it's pretty, but others may not, so.
For me, when I looked at this, my first thought was morbid.
What's the message
And
you're
then
trying to
I
send?
went, then
Look
I
at our
went,
new
oh,
fence.
there is a new fence.
Hey, and I really
New
appreciate
fence.
the
I like
Brenda Whaley.
that. I do too.
Yeah, and that's a great pick, and
That is a great
that's gonna,
picture.
that is just so special for the family.
Well, I thought that seeing as we have such a great new library, wouldn't that be on the front cover? That's exciting, and, you know, or is it?
I was thinking next year's report would be the finished library.
This is kind of the end of the, okay.
It's the cemetery, it's the end.
The end. That's where you're all gonna end up.
I don't, you know.
Is that supposed to be on the back then?
I don't really care. I just called and told you that it was my first thought. My first thought was morbid. My second thought was, showing the new fence. That's
Well,
all. I don't care.
Do you want to switch it with the picture on page 4?
Well, that's a happy picture on page 4. I don't really care, honey. I really don't, whatever. I'm not the one who's putting it together.
I'm not in either, so I don't have a horse in this.
But because I was talking to Dean anyways, I just thought I'd throw in that I wasn't that fond of his.
Can we Photoshop a cow in this one?
Well, and then he asked me about the sheep, and I said, well, that was kind of cool, that this is, it's fine. And like I said, I'm not the one putting it together. I just had it.
Pictures from our 3-hour cruise
I've got pictures of that. Actually, they're particularly good.
What's on the inside cover? Is that always like that?
No, it changes, but we received a letter that, from the Veterans Administration, that they asked us to get it out, you know, perhaps publish it in the town report, so, you know, I thought if we're gonna put it in there, we should put it in pretty visibly, so, but it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be there.
What I'm seeing more and more is people with uniforms saying that they're a veteran, different, I think that's great. Seeing it more and more, people coming in the store, that companies are supporting. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I love that one of Brenda.
I know.
That's exactly how I'm always going to remember her.
I know, it's just,
And the playground is
yeah, and I wrote
lovely.
the article for the
That was a nice article.
paper.
Yes,
Really
it
nice.
was.
Yeah. So if any of you need your obituaries written by me, just let me know.
Is that all for pictures? I like pictures. It is thick enough.
So I guess new this year, that, so donations will be broke out as a separate, on a separate page in the budget.
Well,
For donations, because on page 21, That's new.
Yeah, do you want to reference the article?
I mean, the budget doesn't really have a reference. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean, like,
C page.
what is it, Article 5?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't put the page down on Article 5.
I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
being discussed on the floor, so the moderator could do that potentially.
Yeah, oh, no, I think what Frank's point, on Article 5, you'll put page 21.
Okay.
If there's a placeholder for which page it is.
On page 7.
Or page 12. What? Oh, yeah, page 7. Well,
Okay, right.
Because all these numbers should be filled in, right?
yeah, by January 27th. So page 21, unless it moves.
Right.
Dean, as you're doing this, is it getting easier over the years with all your computer skill?
Yeah, I guess so.
And like, how do you get all the births and the deaths? How's that?
That's all Mary's. That's all town clerks.
Okay, I see. She provides that for you.
Well, a lot of this stuff is just submitted, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess what's hard is that, some of this stuff like names on the ballot or from the school district all comes in kind of late in the process because the deadlines statutorily are late.
That's quite a few babies in a year's time. That's quite a few. 2.5 pages. Oh, isn't that cute with the nest? Is that your idea, Dean?
No, that came from Mary.
Oh, that's cute.
I think it was in a previous town report.
Okay. Makes good sense. It's a great nest.
I have to say my favorite is on 33.
Is what? 33. But,
That's a good one.
on page 41, is that marriages?
Yeah, well, those have the
Well,
headers.
those have headers, yeah, like, the other one
Births.
is births.
Mine
On
doesn't.
page,
Yeah,
on
mine
page
doesn't
42,
either.
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it says births and then
Oh,
marriages.
Wait,
wow.
what page is your?
We'll do a lot of copy editing on the 27th.
Actually,
It's our
yeah,
last
actually
year.
page 38 doesn't have it either. Oh, that's weird. I think it's in it.
We ready to move forward?
Sure. Okay, really good so far?
Yeah, it's great. We'll pick this up. I'm encouraged. I don't think we need to schedule a January 20th meeting for budget and the town report. Are people feeling comfortable with that?
It's no, because we're trying to go away.
Oh, yeah.
So far.
I think we're in a good place
It seems like it.
and carve out,
It's either get divorced or go away.
yeah, definitely not meeting. Or if we do, there's only 4 of us here. It's still a quorum.
Oh, God.
I guess, I mean, there
You know,
were,
it's not a crime to kill your spouse in the cabin fevers.
I heard you say that earlier.
We have 40 minutes for the budget. We might look at extending that a little, just for this type of stuff.
yep. I guess I just want to raise it, and if you don't want to, that's fine, but I didn't know if you want anything for reviewing the market update of the pay rates.
The global review of the entire,
Right.
Well,
So is it a 5-year review was in the ordinance?
It actually isn't.
It's not?
No, it's only that the 5-year review is to review job descriptions, which can be done in-house. It was just asked from mostly the clerk treasurer's office to do a market study.
Oh.
We can't afford it this year.
Well, let's pick that up at a future meeting, I think. It's just a little out of our bandwidth right now. Okay, draft town report. UPWP application for traffic calming study in East Charlotte Village.
So the planning commission had requested this, basically look at ways to make the future Charlotte Village, East Charlotte Village, more pedestrian, bicycle friendly and slow traffic, and that is the purpose of this. It would be an application to regional planning. They would oversee the study. It would require an allocation from the town, 20%, which I don't think is in the budget right now.
In the planning commission's budget?
It's, I don't think it actually is.
We're gonna talk about your idea instead. I like your idea. I think we should consider what Fritz has to say about, what Fritz said about that. Because that's a lot of money for a study that's already been done. You were saying we could take parts and pieces of it or something.
In reading this, my first comment is, we don't have a target. We want to reduce the 85th percentile. To what? I mean, do we want the speed limit to be 35, 45, 25? We don't have a target, so we're going to spend money, and maybe we reduce the 85th percentile from 54 to 52 or to 50. Is that, what is our goal speed limit?
See, and I think part
It's
of our...
not, it's not here. And so you can go through this study, you can implement it, you can spend all this money, we can create the, what does it say, we have to create a capital improvement plan to implement phase 2 of this study. We can do all that, and they still might be going faster than we want them to go.
It's not gonna do what
The
we
other,
want it to do.
the other way, from what I understand, is if you post a speed limit, it's not enforceable for 5 years.
Does it have to be
But after
adopted
that,
into
it
our
is.
policy, our ordinance?
Yes.
The speed that we would desire, and then put the signs up, and then wait
5
for the
years.
5 years? Or do you just put the signs up and after 5 years, you can automatically adopt it into your ordinance? How does this work?
Dean?
That is correct, yeah, you amend the ordinance to change the speed limit. You don't, I mean, it's not enforceable, you can try to enforce it, but if it's appealed, then it's not enforceable. You know, I think,
So it's 5 years from the date we adopt it and
Right.
post it.
right,
I would post it.
If it's not,
If it's,
If there's no
if the
petition
whole
to repeal the
if
ordinance.
whole process hasn't gone through and there's no appeal for the new ordinance.
right.
My concern is that you can spend 40 grand on this and not get where you want to go. Then what are you going to do?
Right.
it's 3 years down the road.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah,
years.
2 or 3 years down the road and $40,000 later.
Signs.
Say 25 miles an hour.
Well, I think what we should do, like we've gone for our town lands visit, I think we should go out. I have a van large enough for the 6 of us.
He has a school bus.
Oh, he has a school bus, yeah. Oh, God.
We'll rent it. We'll rent it.
Wonderful.
But I think we should go
There's
to
room
like.
for a bar in the
few
back
of
now.
The West Village, the East Village,
And the lights
and a
on,
couple
stop
other places
everybody.
just to get a feel for.
What the speeds are.
What the speeds are and,
I hate to do sign up to spend money to do a study when it doesn't tell me what my goal is. It just says I want to reduce it.
Is signing up committing, or is this an application?
It's an application. It's an application. And I guess there is $4,000 in the planning commission's budget for consultants.
Saw that.
Get out.
We take the $4,000 and
By sign?
Buy signs.
Buy signs.
Yeah. It probably costs less
But
than that.
Junior put them up for $39.99.95.
Bill?
I just got a couple of questions. First of all, so one of the things is, I agree with Fritz on this one. I know that intersection well, and I don't really see a lot of traffic calming techniques that won't be cost prohibitive, other than maybe reducing the speed limits there. Or maybe you could put, radar flashing speed signs, which, are getting more inexpensive. So, other than that, I want to mention that I would like some clarification what the AADT and 85% numbers mean there. When I read that, I think that that's like 57 miles per hour. Is that the average speed, or what does that number actually mean? Because I know people go way too fast there, and the other issues we're dealing with are not only just speed, but volume and tailgating and habits. So, these are all serious issues.
In every town.
In every town. But that intersection itself, because of the hills that you have leading into the intersection, you can't really put rumble strips, you don't really put them on hills. It's a really difficult thing without massive infrastructure improvements. You have huge culverts and drop-offs. So, I tend to agree with Fritz that maybe, other than speed limits, I don't really see a lot of alternative here. On the other side, if it's just an application that we're not, forcing ourselves to spend the money, I don't necessarily see a problem with applying for the application, because you don't necessarily have to go through with it.
Yeah, but why make somebody go through all the work if we're really not
Well, that's a good point.
interested?
That's a
you
good
know?
point.
Or do we lose
Move on to,
credit with
I would say-
CCRPC
I
if we
apply for it and
do
say, no,
a
that's
phone
right, you
application?
don't say.
I'd say slow down some because it's a four-way stop now. I remember when it was a two-way stop. On Charlotte Heinsberg Road, you did not have to stop.
Spear Street stops.
Spear Street stopped, so the people went through there at every speed.
I know when I was in my early 20s and we came to Charlotte, it was that intersection that was so dangerous. That's why it became a four-way. And I hate to talk about accidents on that four-way intersection because I think it's, but in my almost 20 years there, it's
But that spur from
better than,
Spear Street to Jackson Hill used to not even be there.
well, that's where there's a real speed problem too.
You used to have to
You know,
go
with all
past the
children.
store. It wasn't a four-way intersection.
Right.
Well, there used to be no.
That happened in like 57
Very,
when the state bought,
right?
and it went in between my property and the bar.
Bad accident.
Yeah,
think when the horses used to
Jackson Hill was Charlotte Heinsberg Road. They
Right.
used to come down, and at the top of the hill, they used to turn where Jackson Hill Road starts, and people used to go over the edge. So they decided that, having people going over the edge probably isn't a good idea. So that's when they ended up putting the road in. Now, I don't know how many years, that was before my
Yeah,
time.
Niles Bora talks about it.
That was probably in the 50s.
1957
I would
comes to
assume.
mind from when we,
So that's a little bit before my time that it was changed. I just remember my father talking about it. And when he owned the store, he always talked about it.
The bypass.
Yeah. Well, he said that was part of the reason why the store
Impacted.
was such a rough place to be.
Yeah.
Is because now it's on a side road.
I didn't go to the meetings when this was discussed. It's
it wasn't discussed
Planning
From
Commission.
the planning
at
commission?
lengths.
I didn't go to the meetings that
this-
were that
I
was
have
discussed.
been, and I don't believe they discussed it in great lengths, why they should do it. They just thought there should be a study, which.
Advisory motion?
Well, it's.
Town meeting and get some more
No,
polling?
no,
It's only,
just set the speed limits.
Peter's letter.
Peter's letter.
to you.
To you.
To me, oh, good. Yes,
your
yes,
fault.
this
What
I
are you gonna
read.
do,
I
man?
know. So, yeah,
And that was solution.
and he talked about it at the, in the budget,
Right.
putting that 4,000 in for it.
I think there's ways that we could move forward on traffic calming by starting with the speed limit, but then I know there's few experts on the planning commission that know different ways of calming traffic. Maybe it's something we can,
I have 4 different ways of calming traffic, as long as it doesn't interfere with the normal traffic flow. As being somebody that drives a bigger vehicle around town, that's gonna be my main thing, is I don't wanna have sides that are coming in, because a
Right.
bus, juniors, dump trucks, they need the whole 8 feet of their
Tractors,
side of the road. And when you put in some of these traffic calming things, now we're on the yellow line, over the yellow line. I mean,
if you have bicycles.
I came to nearly a stop today. I went down Heinsberg Road today, and there was a person walking up the road, and there was a car coming the other way. And he started slowing down, which means I had to slow down almost to a stop, because he was slowing down because he thought I was gonna go around the person. So I come just about to a complete stop in front of the person, probably about 25 feet away, so the guy can go by me, so that I can go around the guy, because I always pull over halfway across the road to go around people. That's just what I do. And if you start putting any kind of traffic calming things in, it has the same effect. So I'm hoping that if we do any kind of traffic calming things, that it doesn't narrow the lanes.
We're a
We did
long ways
on
from
our
pay
that.
for a traffic cut calming study right up here. We have somewhere in the drawer results, and it tells you can put squiggly lines and hoop-de-doos and bumps and signs.
Right.
So we're gonna pay to do it again? Is there some
So you got the
new
master,
phenomenon that is gonna be different than the 2-year-old study for out here
so you
trying to
got the
slow
master
people
plan
down?
on how to do this, why pay for it all again?
Exactly. I talked to Daryl about this at length one day, and I said, we got, as far as I know, we've got all the options in a report done by, right out here. Let's just dust it off and see what the options are. If we want to try any of them, try any of them. If not, but that coupled with the fact that what are we trying to achieve? A 35-mile-an-hour speed limit? Pedestrian crossings?
I guess the speed would depend on how far away you are from the center of the village. You look at other towns and they're around 35 in their
Coming
villages.
into a village,
Yeah, they usually
Do
come
you want to
down.
drop it all the way down to 25? Maybe that's too far.
we all
Maybe
know.
35, that might be okay. But, I would just hate to see everything drop down to 25 miles an hour wherever you go.
So,
I
if
don't
we
think
pick
that's the
35,
answer.
you look at some of those 85th percentile speed, we got to reduce it 20 miles an hour by some of these methods that we all saw when they proposed them out here,
Right.
which, other than like speed tables, I don't think you can put a speed table in a road that has a 54-mile-an-hour speed limit unless it's an off-road course for somebody, because that's a hazard, but
It can be.
We're just looking for a practical speed
Yeah.
limit coming into a village.
What our options are, and make some decisions.
Okay.
So are we doing this or not, and should it stay in the budget for the planning commission?
No, take it out.
well, we should at least tell.
Yeah, we
what
should.
our concerns are. We don't
Save
have
it,
And
so
also
save it
get-
for next meeting and
Yeah.
inform them to come in?
a goal speed limit, and here's this
you do
report
that?
that we had. I mean, do you like the choices that are in there? I don't know.
Julianne?
Are you concerned that just by arbitrarily lowering the speed limit, that you're setting a precedent that you're gonna have to adhere to in other areas?
Yes.
And the reason why I ask that is because people come here regularly and talk about Ferry Road and other major roads. I just want you to consider that.
A lot of those,
That will happen.
a lot of the people that come in, it's because people are speeding from an already posted sign. It's already posted 25 on Greenbush and people are going 40 or 50. The biggest complaint is you need to do something to slow them down. This isn't even posted that low yet. This is in hopes of getting them to slow down so we can post it.
But I mean, think
Slower.
about like Lake Road, which nobody wants to put up a 50-mile-an-hour sign to let people know that it's 50 miles an hour. It's not even posted. There's areas that are 50 miles an hour that are unposted, too.
Well, that's a
I'm
state.
saying you're opening up a can of
And
worms
that's a
by
state law.
doing that.
And that's a
Yeah.
state law, that if it's not
But I
posted, it is.
just want you guys to consider that you're choosing the East Village over other areas in town. I like the idea that Carrie suggested, going to other areas and taking a look, because you have other, it's near and dear to my heart, because I sit here and I listen to people nearly get hit by cars. I nearly got hit by cars myself. But you have surrounding towns that have 35-mile-an-hour speed limits, and then you hit Charlotte and they're 10 miles over every entry point into this town. I just think there needs to be more of a comprehensive look than just West Village, because they're going to be trying to do a village designation and growing that particular area. That's all. And I've said my piece.
I think we could, if there was 6 of us, or, because that's all I can fit in my van unless we, but, you know, we all would have a different thought process or speed that we would be comfortable with, and somewhere there'd probably be a compromise to,
I just know that a lot of people have expressed very common concerns over and over again, and I feel like while they're listened to and placated at meetings, the only place that's having a decision made, other than Churchill Road in the past year, no one's come from the West Village, or the East Village, other than I think 3 people that have come to planning commission meetings that I know by name, and I've attended all of them for the past year. So I could certainly give you my detailed notes on the process that have really raised issues, where there's people that have raised it in a lot of other areas as well in town.
Yeah, from all the complaints I hear, most of them are people that are speeding above a posted limit. I mean, this is a issue to get the posted limit lowered. Because it's 50 miles an hour up to the stop sign right now. So someone can come into that intersection pretty hot and just lock them up and still not be violating anything. The goal is to slow people down. The study says we want to slow them down so then we can post it lower. Which to me is a different problem than people speeding through an already posted zone.
I think there's a couple different factors working there. And Charlotte's been extremely effective in taking that on. They have their own speed carts, they record their own data, and then they use that data to determine their 85th percentile in their own town. They don't rely on Chittenden County Regional Planning, neither does Ferrisburg. Ferrisburg uses Addison County, and they use their speed carts to lower their speed
And
limits.
we
So you
have
do
our
it
own speed
internally.
cart, and when people complain, the state put
I'm
their
just
speed
saying-
cart out too.
I'm saying, well, I'm just kind of going along with your theme, that if you want to handle it internally instead of spending all this extraneous money to an organization, there are other towns that have handled it internally as well. So I'm just agreeing with you, just saying there's more than one factor at work.
I think just measuring the speed that cars are going, regional planning doesn't charge for that. It's the other recommendations and whatnot that they charge for.
How to slow them down.
What's that? How to slow them down, yeah.
How to slow them
Right,
down.
right.
But is it how to slow them down to meet the existing speed limit? Or is it how to slow them down so we can now reduce our 85th percentile so we can post it lower?
Yeah, I think the latter.
2 different
Right.
things, so.
So, you know, this is a unique intersection. I just wanted to mention that, you know, those hills are blind, so we all know and drive accordingly around here, but people from out of Charlotte go fairly fast. They see a 55 mile-an-hour posting, especially if you're heading eastbound on Heinsberg Road. It's a blind hill, and you know, they're doing 60 because they're not from around here. They don't know that they're going to be coming to a flashing red light at the bottom of the hill. So that's very dangerous, having that at 50. But you know, following up on Julianne's question, weren't we having a discussion a while back about doing a town-wide speed study? Did anything ever materialize from that?
I think that was all part of this.
Yeah, I
Speed
mean,
study,
we
I
do a
think.
town-wide speed study. Regional planning doesn't have the, or we don't have the ability to do that. We were, I think, picking off the worst places, and this was the top of the list.
Well, this
We
was
talked,
really
we
because
talked
we're
about it
talking
going
about
from,
the East
from,
Village.
from Ferry Road
that's true.
all the way to the East Village.
Yeah, and
It
Ferry-
wasn't
at
because
one
it was
point.
such a bad spot.
right, true. Yep.
It's because we're discussing changing some of the commercial East Village.
Well, the village designated area, the whole village boundary lines. They were
That's why
discussing
they
the village
wanted-
boundary lines and the commercial village district. I mean, they were discussing a lot of different things over there on a whole redesign of basically of the East Lot Village. So this was just happened to be one of the factors in that they were looking at when they were doing their whole study, is to see what, if the village grows as they hope their plan works, that the traffic does get slowed down in some way, shape, or form to make it a more peaceful village and thriving village.
So following up what you just said, so you can't really do a town-wide, you know, speed. You can't have CCRPC do a town-wide speed study because this intersection is particularly bad because of its, you know, inherent design. And I think that's part of the reason why the Planning Commission submitted this, just to focus on this one intersection.
I didn't hear that in discussion.
No. Well, I also remember, you know, Darrell seems to be under the impression that, you know, we'll just ask CCRPC and they'll come up with a solution to traffic calming here. And I don't agree with that.
I think it's gonna have to be boots on the ground. Those of us who live there, and in part you could slow down, nice signs, flowering, like where the East Burying Ground is, the cemetery. As you're going south there on Spear Street, and just before you go by the cemetery would be a great place to have beautiful garden, kind of would start to, I believe plantings could start to slow traffic down. And I know we have a young lady who made the butterfly garden over at the bridge. She, along with some others of us, will plant that garden in the East Burying Ground with permission from the Cemetery Commission. And I don't know, we'll get my hands dirty. All right. But I also think as you're coming in from Alphilo Road, I feel like there is an area that would handle a sign saying, welcome, slow down. My biggest concern for me personally are people going south on Spear. That's where there's lots of speed, and coming north too. And because you come over that hill and then you have that stop sign, I've seen a few shaky things over the years from there. So, but again, there's probably a place where you could make a nice sign and plant some, you know, just ask Louise, she'll give us plants.
See if Peter can make it to the next meeting. We can continue this discussion.
Okay, good.
Hazard mitigation assistant grant.
So, the state is applying to FEMA to update the Chittenden County Hazard Mitigation Plan, which Charlotte is included within. And they have said they don't think they're going to need it, but just to have it in case it's needed. They've asked for a certification that the town would contribute $2,000, could contribute $2,000 towards the match. The hazard mitigation plan looks at reducing the potential for flooding and erosion and those kinds of issues. And what happens if we do have those kinds of issues. So, that's what that is.
So what they're saying is that the state hopes FEMA will pay for all of this, but if they don't, the state doesn't want to have to pay for it. They want us to pay some of it.
All the towns, yeah.
I suppose. I suppose that's appropriate.
We have a plan now.
We do have one, it expires in 2022. So this is to start getting ready to replace it or update it.
Is there a time limit on this one? Is there a time they want this signed by?
Yeah, they do. It was about 10 days ago. I said this select board wouldn't be meeting until tonight, so.
I was gonna say, I'm interested to see what Chris Davis's comment would be, because he's our,
Emergency Management Director.
I suppose there's a potential that if you don't have an appropriate hazard mitigation plan, that when hazards happen, you don't get grants and/or
Very true.
funds.
Yeah, FEMA funding is definitely dependent upon
So
having a plan.
I think maybe having to spend $2,000 to make sure we're in the grant FEMA money givers' good graces is probably a good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'll make the motion to approve, what did we call this? The certification of $2,000 match for a hazard mitigation assistance grant, as requested by
Department of Public Safety.
Department of Public Safety.
I'll second that and authorize the chair to sign.
That's, I can always keep forgetting. I need a stamp. So I remember. A little sign hanging on my microphone.
Any more discussion?
Department of Public Safety, or authorized, or as requested.
Oh, you're the best. It's my favorite. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thanks. Request for bids for bridge repairs?
So, I drafted a request for bids based on the last time we went out to bid, and this is for the covered bridge on Roscoe Road and the bridge on Dorset Street, where Fritz noticed the abutments are had some erosion. I asked Stantec about assisting us, and they said they could assist with reviewing bids and also answering questions. They did say to do that would require a change order and, up to, I think it's $1,600, which I
1,160.
That's-
Am I reading the wrong?
Sorry?
I was just talking to myself. I thought they wanted a budget of 1,160.
Oh, okay, that's what it is, yes.
So we gave $1,000 as kind of a retainer
Oh, okay.
to Stantec to come out and look at the stuff and to do the report and to come up with recommendations. We burned most of that retainer on that process. Now we're asking them to help us with the RFPs and evaluating them, and that's gonna cost more money, so we gotta put more back into the retainer.
That's fine, we have to do this, this is not.
So.
Okay, I will move that, the, request for bids, excuse me, be, accepted.
I'm gonna add to this that if we are going to have them review it in terms of the results, we should probably ask for their input in the RFP going out. Because they may say, if I'm gonna referee these, I want this to be in the RFP.
Okay.
So I would take this item and send your RFP to them. Do we need we probably,
If they make any changes to review, or
What's that?
is that what you're thinking?
I'm thinking that, yeah, they would want to review this to see if they have some comments.
But if they make changes, do we want to see it, or we want to approve it and give them the license to add to it without seeing it?
No, we'd have to.
I did send it to Tom, I don't know if he looked at it, but I said, you know, this is what we'd like to send out, and that's when he submitted the change order back, but, I don't know how much he looked at it.
I'd get his comments before we mail this out.
Okay, I withdraw my motion then.
Yeah, well, yeah, we should just
Yeah,
put
we
it
can
off.
pick this up 27th.
Yeah.
It's a full agenda too, but,
At this rate, you could even probably put it on the next one, just.
Can we make the Dorset Street a
You
covered
mean
bridge?
like
We're getting
after town meeting?
we're getting into the, it's too cold to pump the grout into the spaces anyway season,
Yeah.
so
Polar
it might give you a
vortex.
little time if we're so booked, 27th, put it off into February, maybe the meeting after that, give Tom a little chance to,
February 10th.
yeah, give him a chance to reply.
I think Stephen Brooks was gonna make Dorset Street a covered bridge.
I now remember that. Remember those renderings were beautiful. We just get a plow truck through, then we could, right?
You can get one through, we just don't know what the bridge is.
It'd be wider.
Highway
And
access
it'd be room for people to walk.
policy and procedure.
So Fritz had raised the point that the new town highway standards include requirement regarding culverts being 18 inches at minimum, and if their slope is 5% or greater, that we stabilize, or require the head wall to be stabilized. Require the head wall will be installed and the outlet will be stabilized. So I added that to the highway policy and procedure, highway access policy and procedure. There were some other, what I consider cleanup items. I guess I also realized, as far as the average slope in the vicinity of the access, I wondered if there should be a measurement within 100 feet of the access or something, because you could say the average within the mile is, no slope. But I don't know if 100 feet would be the right amount, or 200 feet, or,
I would think 100 feet would be good enough.
100 feet either
There's just-
side or centered, 100 feet on center.
50 feet either side, 100 feet total. That just allows somebody from saying, well, this exactly 20 feet here is flat, but the rest of it's like this.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
you
isn't
go
it-
at 100 feet.
Isn't it there on page 2 in the middle?
Did I do that?
Indicating the average slope of Heinsberg Road for the 100-foot span centered on the proposed access?
In Heinsberg Road, I did that on the access permit, is that what you're reading from? What are you reading from?
That's in the procedure, section 1, bullet 3.
Okay. Oh, you're right. Average slope, I think I did a cut and paste there. So it shouldn't be Heinsberg Road, it should be average slope of whatever road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a really funny standard. Never change.
Okay.
Any chance we can get Louise on the same page?
Same document?
You see that?
Yeah, because if you take out that, take out Pine Brook Road, you'd be in.
Yeah.
Sweet. Is there a motion to approve as amended?
Sure. Motion to approve the new highway, town road and bridge standards as amended.
Sorry, the policy and procedure for highway access permit.
Yeah, that's the one. Am I reading this right? Highway access policy and procedure. Okay, we're amending the highway access policy and procedure.
Right.
To reflect the new town road and bridge standards.
Right.
So
And I'll second that.
the highway access policy and procedure as amended.
There you go. When he's finished, I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Now you want to,
So the next one, the highway access ordinance, is, I guess there's been, well, two things leading to this. One is the town attorney, I think, felt, this was actually a few years ago, that the policy and procedure that we just updated acts more as an ordinance because we require a permit and whatnot. And we had been working on this ordinance for a while, but it's probably not quite ready yet for adoption, so that's why I thought we should go ahead and approve the amendment to the policy and procedure first. And then I think Fritz and Junior have talked about the need to control drainage and other things that come into the right-of-way. And the ordinance would do that, so it would not just be driveways, but it could be drainage, or it could be signs, or, other things that people do in the right-of-way.
Trees, fences. Any number of things have shown up, like when we had to move, what was the road next to the creek over there?
Stones over on Hospital Road.
Yeah.
Along the line.
So, the statute says that we're allowed to, that people can't do stuff in the right-of-way without our permission first. But at this point, without an ordinance, our only means of enforcement is to file suit when they don't ask first. So I had brought this up a couple of years ago, I think, and there was a number of people in the audience that didn't like it, but I think since that time, there has been the things like the trees along East Thompson's Point Road and some other stuff that happens in the town right away and people just do without permission. So the ordinance gives you some authority to control that, especially with the act of Act 143, the
Agricultural,
well, that one and the one for the water quality
the
as
water
well.
quality one, yes.
I can't keep the number straight, but we're responsible for the quality of water now that's in the ditches, and there's some things that we can get in trouble for if somebody decides to drain their manure pit into the town ditch, or any number of things. So I think it's good to have an ordinance so people are more familiar that they need to ask to do this stuff, and if they don't, it's easier for us to enforce it if there is an ordinance. So I think the intent of putting this copy and putting it on the agenda is not to act on it tonight, but to just put this back into people's mind that we never did get with this, and we should work on it maybe in February or March or
That'd be great.
whenever.
After Bridget's home.
Yeah, after I'm gone, knock yourself out.
March
No.
4th?
Yeah, there's a few things I had questions on just by reading.
Oh,
the
yeah,
first-
there's-
Just reading the first page.
There's lots of things,
Can we
but
retain you as a consultant
heck no.
for the program?
There aren't enough Kit Kats, I'm sorry.
You can show up and just be out in the audience and just.
Harass you guys to no end.
Again.
I'd never do that.
You're gonna call it in.
So anyway,
Phone a friend.
I asked Dean to put this on here. Here it is. We should think about it.
Thank you.
Very good, especially as
On that list that people have to do next time. You can put somebody's name next to this one.
junior.
Yes.
Oh, I was playing with Frank. What?
You just put FG after it and that's got it covered.
Now you got me doing exam.
Highway access ordinance, that's that. Animal control intake contract with the Humane Society of Chittenden County.
Yeah, that's just an annual agreement that we have with the Humane Society to take dogs after a 5-day.
So where do they go in those 5 days?
They can stay at their owner's home.
But if we have, if there's a stray
If they're
dog.
stray, okay, they go down to Comfort Hill.
We have an annual contract that
Oh,
they're
good,
willing to
okay.
take any strays.
Good, and why the difference, just out of curiosity, why the difference between cats and dogs?
I don't.
Cats carry rabies. I should know. I just got that scratch. I mean, I'm just-
In terms of the price?
Cats aren't licensed, right?
Right, true.
That's true, that's true, that's true. But they would more likely to not be immunized from
Oh, I
rabies.
see.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, this is a good deal that they're doing for us, and I totally support it. I'm just curious.
Smaller, they can fit more cats in the same space.
I think so, I don't know.
They don't eat as much?
They can have my cat. Well, I'll move this. I totally support it.
And authorize someone to sign?
And authorize the chair to sign.
And I'll second it.
No more discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Thompson's Point leases.
Fine.
Oh, I've heard of them.
How much is our Comfort Hill contract? Out of curiosity.
1,500.
Yeah, it would be the line in the budget that includes this,
Okay.
and,
I'll look, it doesn't matter right now. I just know a woman, Sue Maresca would take animals in, she does for Shelburne. I don't know if it was to our advantage to ask Sue in the future.
We could certainly ask.
Oh.
Caroline, yeah.
Okay, good. I tried to call her today, but I didn't get through to ask.
Yeah, and I
what
think,
the deal is.
I think we still get charged after that. That's just, they're reserving space for us if needed. Retainer, I thought.
Well, I'll investigate a little bit with her and then,
dogs. The budget is $900 for dogs.
900?
Yeah,
for Comfort Hill.
yep.
Okay.
Are these in order? Yeah.
Not sure.
Is there, maybe do these,
I'll make a motion to renew 20-year lease to 241 North Shore Road, 2752 Thompson's Point Road, and 561 North Shore Road.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
There's one more.
Well, that's a termination and a renewal.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's why I did the first three.
I see.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'll make a motion to terminate the lease to Carolyn R. Colburn and William C. at 1108 North Shore Road, and to approve a new lease to William C. Colburn at the same address.
I will second that.
Authorize.
And authorize the chair to sign. I'll remember that for him at least once.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill, I don't know why we got paid on page 3. Yeah, November 4th, I think. It was-
Select board updates. Charlotte Solver.
Oh, 1 minute.
Oh, thank you. Minutes.
How come we only got page 3 of?
It's because
So,
it was
yeah,
that long.
it was, the only, I think everything was correct except for the culvert size, 5 lines from the 4 lines from the bottom. It was 18 inches instead of 15 inches.
And then I know at the top, it says Sherlock Commons.
Oh, yeah, you're right. What is
Sherlock
it?
Crossings.
Crossings, good point. I think that was my fault. That was actually what I called it on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
So that was,
I don't know if it's crossings or
it is
crossing.
crossing.
Yes.
What, singular or?
It was singular, I believe.
Did we make a motion to approve?
We have two sets.
No, we got a partial and then two more. This is separate.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you now.
We only have page 3 because there was only a correction on the 3rd page.
Motion to approve the correction on the minutes of November 4th.
Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve minutes of December 16th as may be amended.
Second.
I circled number 161. Mary asked about taking 10,000 off the recreation budget if we're reserve fund. We're looking for money.
We did.
We take that 10,000? Okay,
Yeah, it's at
sorry.
30 now.
Sorry.
No, that was good. Yeah, we need everywhere we
Okay,
can
we
get.
did that. yeah.
She's-
So, and then in 181, there are 4 easements, I guess 180, there are 4 easements in the preferred alignment. Not all homeowners have not been contracted to sign easements. We're not really,
Double negative?
I don't know, something.
They all have it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's sort of saying they're all are going to sign these easements, and that's not
Maybe the second not. should be
necessarily.
Yeah, you need to take out that second not.
Yeah, 181. Oh, you don't have a second not in there?
All homeowners have not been.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. And then on 214, did I leave early that night? 12:16.
Yeah.
Oh, I went to the restroom, okay.
You got me to catch everything.
I was like, I don't remember leaving.
That wasn't the one, you weren't feeling well one night.
Yeah, but it
wasn't
wasn't
that
the
night.
16th, no. That was
Put
a
screens
couple
in the
months.
bathroom so we can watch it.
Live stream.
Yeah. It's getting late, I'm sorry.
It is
All
getting
right.
late. I'm sorry. No more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Motion to approve the minutes of January 6th is maybe amended.
Second. It's a short one.
I wanted to ask you about line 59. So a lot of people called you and asked you about the sewer.
I
Wastewater.
don't know if I'd say a lot, probably 4 or 5.
Okay, it says many calls. And maybe 4 or 5, I'm not saying that.
I would just say,
wondered
we
if
should just probably strike many from line
received
58.
calls, yeah.
Say received calls.
Because I just know a lot of people that aren't aware of this, like they
Yeah.
can know what, you did good.
I'm trying to think, there was Robert, there was Stephen Brooks, there was, who else?
Oh, those kind of calls.
Did you want to say one too many? Any more?
Well, then I guess I had those conversations. That's true. Yeah.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
I just didn't know there was a.
Select board updates.
Black Solar?
Sure.
I am trying to assess the position of 2 other parties to that proceeding, the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Public Service. I've had a conversation with an attorney at the Department of Public Service, and I told him our view, and he is going to reassess their position. And then I've spoken with someone at the Department of Agriculture who is going to get back to me. Because I think we just need to understand what the other parties to the proceedings are. So that's kind of where we are on that one.
Wow. I did want to add one that's not on the agenda is employee reviews is something that we looked at modifying the existing employee review format and structure, and just want to see if we can pick that process back up at some point after the budget season here.
I think we could, didn't we talk about just really leaving it at?
It's pretty cumbersome, but
Dean?
There were 2 things. One is, I didn't know if you wanted, there was a possible update about meeting with the Recreation Commission that we could schedule at some point. And then also, it's Daniel's going to be a 6-month coming up, and our personnel policies talk about a review. So I wondered if you wanted to plan for doing that, when it's convenient for whoever wants to participate. I think if as many of you as possible can participate, I think that sends a message, we value this employee and we want to.
Yeah, he's the,
Can you come to a select board meeting and we can do a review at the beginning of the meeting?
That could be possible. So I think you added lighting to the 27th at 5:30.
Yeah, no, maybe February.
Yeah, February.
Like, March 4th again, huh?
Big Mo.
And
Fritz, everyone except for Fritz on February 10th
Yeah.
at 5:30? Does that work?
I can do it. It's fine.
Yeah, 5:30 work?
He has a cute dog.
5:30, 5:45?
Yeah, about
5:45?
Okay.
Also, February, is it the February meeting or January, Dean? We want to invite the Recreation Commission to the Select Board meeting to review all the open meeting rules and procedures. Sooner than later would be good as far as how to post minutes, just kind of do a primer on that. Can we do the 27th or no?
I did pencil in at 5:45.
Great.
Yeah.
Meet with Recreation Commission. Okay,
Okay.
so that's an update. And I think that's it. We have approved warrants to pay bills as usual, and then an executive session likely to discuss a personnel issue with no action expected when we come out.
I'll make a motion to go to executive session.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
I came in this morning and then I signed and then I crossed my signature out.
How do you verify that?
Because of the energy committee, $900. I mean, it's like, what are you guys doing?
Great. Oops.